Hello and welcome to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Explore our playlist for more captivating novels, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss a new audiobook. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 61. 3 weeks later, the current situation of Rose Town. Lord, during this time, we already have 50 sea cavalrymen, 50 wolf cavalrymen, and 1,000 cavalrymen. In addition, we have purchased a large number of high-quality weapons and armor from the Roland Merchant Guild. And a large number of healing potions and antidote potions. A week ago, Rose Town had already built 8 defensive arrow towers, 6 on the seaside and 2 on both sides of the commercial road. Also, because of the Roland Merchant Guild, we were fortunate enough to obtain a batch of magic scrolls. Marco was currently reporting the situation of Rose Town over the past 3 weeks to Alan. Yes, it had been a full 3 weeks since Alan upgraded the Dragon Nest last time. Alan's cavalry regiment had already completed training, and the Sea Cavalry had expanded to 50 people. Due to the expansion of the Sea Cavalry, Alan's cavalry regiment should have been short of 30 people. After all, his warrior training acceleration card could only train 1,000 people. In desperation, Alan asked the Earl for 30 warriors to make up the team of 1,000 people. It was hard to imagine that a small rural baron could actually train a 1,000-man cavalry regiment. Even Earl would have to attach importance to this force. After all, on the battlefield, the role of 1,000 cavalrymen was far greater than that of 1,000 infantrymen. Number 37 to 37. Also, my lord, thanks to Mr. Nick's help, some of the 10 knights you trained have already broken through to the level of second-class knights. Marco reported with some emotion. If it were 3 months ago, he couldn't have imagined that the impoverished town would look like it does today. Not to mention the Sea Knights and Wolf Riders, just the 1,000-man knight order would be enough for Alan to sweep away all the forces within the Thornflower territory except for the Earl. Well, not bad. Marco, you've worked hard during this time. Nick is also about to be promoted to an intermediate alchemist. When that time comes, I will fully support you in entering the 6th-class knight level. Alan patted Marco on the shoulder as he spoke. Thank you, my lord. A trace of joy appeared on Marco's face. As a knight, he naturally wanted to go further. He had good talent, which was proven by his ability to cultivate to the 5th-class knight level. As a commoner knight, he didn't have extra money to buy expensive potions, so he could only rely on his own cultivation. After reaching the 5th level, his cultivation had been unable to break through. Originally, he had already extinguished the idea of going further. But Nick's appearance and Alan's words gave him hope. Well, Sparrow, tell me about the factory's situation. Alan waved for Marco to step down and asked Sparrow, who was beside him, to report on Rose Town's current financial situation. My lord, our factory has expanded tenfold, but that's still far from enough. Our goods are extremely popular outside. Now it's not just the Thornflower territory. The Ryan Principality has also begun to spread the name of our Rose Town, because we have the strongest wine, the sweetest maltose, and the most popular perfume among women. Now I have rented a large suburban area in the Thornflower territory to build our factory, which costs 30,000 gold coins a year in rent. The cost of recruiting workers is about 1,000 gold coins a year, and the raw materials, I estimate, will require 20,000 gold coins a year. But these are not the main points. The main point is, my lord, in just 3 weeks, we have already made a net profit of 50,000 gold coins. This is still the income after splitting with the Roland Chamber of Commerce. It's hard to imagine how huge a fortune it will be when we grow bigger in the future. Sparrow said excitedly, while also mentioning the recent situation of the town. Everything is developing in a good direction. The current Rose Town has far surpassed the fiefdom of some viscounts. Well, not bad, it seems my efforts have not been in vain. Alan sat comfortably on the sofa, looking somewhat lazy. Since the last time he went to the Blue Moon Principality to plunder 3 weeks ago, he hasn't used his knight's sword. He had a very comfortable 3 weeks, and even completed several side quests. Now his experience bar is 49,050 thousandths, just 1,000 experience points away from leveling up. However, this 1,000 experience points made Alan feel a little helpless. After all, his new mission was like this. Mission: Glorious Viscount. Mission content: Rosetown has been developed to the extreme. Now what limits you is the fief and population. Please be promoted to Viscount, or a higher title, as soon as possible. Mission reward: 20,000 experience points, elementary magical talent. This mission made Alan only able to watch dryly. After all, Alan had only become a baron for 3 months. If he wanted to quickly improve his title, he needed military exploits. Fortunately, a national war is about to begin. Alan glanced at the war mission countdown: 2 weeks and 5 days. As long as the war comes, Alan can completely take this opportunity to complete the mission. Elementary magical talent: this is something that Alan has coveted for a long time. P.S. Chapter 4. Chapter 62 Earl Summons. Closing parenthesis. My lord, there is a knight outside who said he was sent by the Earl and wants to see you. 2 weeks later, early in the morning, just as Alan got up, Butler Edward appeared in front of Alan. The Earl. Alan was slightly stunned, then immediately understood. Recently, his sea knights have been wandering at sea, looking for pirates to practice with. Occasionally, they would encounter the guys from the Blue Moon Principality. Recently, the Blue Moon Principality has become more and more presumptuous. It is no longer pretending to be pirates to attack the Ryan Principality, but openly attacking. At this moment, the relationship between the Ryan Principality and the Blue Moon Principality has become increasingly strained, and the atmosphere of gunpowder is becoming more and more intense. A great war is about to break out. This time, the Earl's summons must be because of the war. Alan revealed a slight smile, finally waited. He immediately summoned the knight. This knight was wearing a knight's armor, and his tall and burly figure made him look extremely unapproachable. After he walked into the castle, he bowed slightly to Alan, then respectfully took out a golden thorn flower badge from the pocket beside him. The Earl has ordered, Lord Alan, please immediately lead your warriors to Thornflower City. The knight said with a solemn expression. He handed the thorn flower badge to Alan. Alan also solemnly took the badge. A trace of anticipation appeared on his face. This moment has finally arrived. Alan held the badge in his hand. This was the Earl's token, and also a signal. Only with this token could he mobilize all the warriors of all the nobles within the entire Thornflower territory. This is also a signal that a war is about to break out. Yes, my lord, the war is about to break out, and charging on the battlefield is the glory of a knight. The knight also showed a smile. I will immediately gather the troops. Are you waiting for me to go together or leaving first? Alan asked. I can't stay long, the Earl is still waiting for me to return and report. The knight shook his head. After he finished speaking, he immediately left and returned to the Thornflower territory. My lord, is a war about to break out? Edward was a little surprised. He didn't feel any trend of war breaking out anywhere recently. He had been living a very happy and comfortable life in Rosetown during this time. Yes, Grandpa Edward, I am about to leave with my warriors. Of course, I will not take them all away. Alan responded softly. He planned to take away the Wolf Riders and 800 cavalry this time. As for the Sea Knights, he would not mobilize them for the time being. Of course, this is not to say that he would not use the Sea Knights this time. After all, he had spent a lot of effort cultivating the Sea Knights, not to let them enjoy themselves, but to let them fight for him on the battlefield. It's just that he doesn't want to reveal the existence of the Sea Knights in advance. Alan could almost predict that this national war would start from the sea. His side had already begun preparing for war, and it was impossible for the Blue Moon Principality not to be prepared, and it could even be said that the other side's preparations were definitely longer and more numerous than the Ryan Principalities. In that case, Alan could almost conclude that a great battle would break out on the sea. As a country on the continent, Alan was not very optimistic about the combat power of the Ryan Principality's warriors on the sea. At this time, the role of the Sea Knights would be too great, and they could completely sway the battle situation. Moreover, the Sea Knights are extremely fast at sea, and they can completely catch the other side off guard. And his method of summoning the Sea Knights is even simpler, just call out in his heart. As for the other 200 warriors, Alan planned to let them stay in Rosetown. After all, this is his base camp, and it would be difficult for him to feel at ease without leaving some strength behind. After Alan thought it over, he immediately ordered the servants to call Marco to gather all the warriors in his territory and wait for his arrival. After arranging everything, Alan began to have the servants change him into knight's armor. Under the Earl's thorn flower summons, all subordinate nobles must respond to the Earl wearing knight's armor and leading their troops. This is the rule. Soon, the servants put on Alan's knight's armor. With a knight's long sword at his waist, Alan slowly left the castle under the gaze of Edward and the servants, as well as the 8 spirits of nature, and came to the warrior training ground. At this moment, including Marco, a full 1,101 people were all wearing armor and holding weapons, waiting solemnly in the training ground for Alan's arrival. Soon, Alan riding a silver moon wolf slowly appeared in front of everyone. This wolf was purchased by Alan at an extra cost, mainly because it looked handsome and was a magical creature, which would also provide some help to him on the battlefield. At this moment, the sun was just right. The moment that handsome young man in knight's armor appeared in their eyes, everyone was willing to fight for him. The warriors stared at Alan, knowing that Alan was slowly approaching. Alan didn't have any extra nonsense. He raised the thorn flower badge high in his right hand, with a serious expression, "My warriors. The horn of war has been sounded. The Earl is summoning us, and glory is waiting for us. Are you willing to fight for me?" Alan shouted. Immediately, everyone shouted, "We are willing to charge into battle for you, and die on the battlefield." Chapter 63 Wolf Riders enter the city, the Crown Prince and the Little Princess revised version. Closing parenthesis. Except for those arranged to stay, everyone else follow me. Alan looked at the warriors kneeling in front of him with satisfaction, and began to make arrangements. Soon, the Wolf Riders and 800 cavalry had already mounted their silver moon wolves or warhorses, ready to go. Alan immediately waved his hand and uttered 2 words, "Depart." Alan, sitting on the silver moon wolf, leapt directly out. And behind him, the Wolf Riders and cavalry followed closely. The sound of horses' hooves rang out like thunder, echoing throughout the town. "Long live the Lord." Number 38-38. "Lord, we will win." The townspeople immediately noticed Alan and his group's movements, and everyone put down their work and shouted at Alan. A hint of a smile appeared on Alan's lips, and soon he led his men away from Rose Town. Along the way, Alan and his group did not rest, and arrived outside Thistle Flower City that afternoon. Rumble. As Alan's cavalry army approached the city, the entire garrison of Thistle Flower City became vigilant. However, after they saw the Thistle Flower banner behind Alan, they were relieved. "Is that Lord's army below? Heavens, am I seeing things right? It's all cavalry. Besides the Earl, does anyone else in our Thistle Flower territory have the ability to train cavalry?" The garrison soldiers were shocked, but what shocked them the most was the cavalry at the very front of the entire cavalry regiment, more than 50 cavalrymen riding tall and handsome magical beasts. Magical beasts. Magical beast cavalry. For a time, the entire Thistle Flower City was in an uproar. If cavalry was already a combat force that only the big shots among the nobles could cultivate, then wolf cavalry like Alan's was completely just a legend among the warriors. After all, even their Earl had never possessed magical beast cavalry warriors. Alan did not pay attention to the shock and uproar of the warriors on the city gate, he just raised the Thistle Flower badge in his hand. "I am Alan, Baron of Rose Town, by order of the Earl, leading my warriors to join you." Alan's voice was wrapped in battle chi, and almost half of Thistle Flower City could hear it clearly. "What? It's Lord Alan." The garrison soldiers were shocked again, and they carefully looked down, just in time to see Alan looking up, revealing a handsome face. "It's Lord Alan, open the gate and let him in." Immediately, the city gate opened, and a team of knights in knight armor rode out to greet him. "Lord Alan, you are the first lord to arrive at Thistle Flower City. I will take you to see the Earl. In addition, Lord Alan, your men, except for the guards, will have to stay outside the city for the time being. Our people have prepared a place for them to rest, please rest assured." The leading knight said respectfully to Alan. At this moment his eyes were full of shock and awe as he looked at Alan. After all, a noble who can train and cultivate nearly 1,000 cavalrymen and 50 wolf cavalrymen, even in the entire Thistle Flower territory, who dares to compete with him besides the Earl? "Okay, arrange it." Alan nodded lightly, and at the same time he turned his head to the wolf cavalry and said, "Wolf cavalry, follow me into the city. Marco, leave the rest of the cavalry to you to command." After saying that, Alan immediately rode the tall and mighty silver moon wolf and slowly walked into Thistle Flower City. This was his second time entering Thistle Flower City after becoming a baron. Unlike the low-key and plainness of the last time, this time he walked into Thistle Flower City in the most high-profile manner. Alan walked in the very front alone. Behind him were a full 50 powerful wolf cavalrymen. The tall and mighty silver moon wolf made Alan and his group the focus of the entire city in an instant. Heavens, it's a magical beast cavalry. Look, it's Lord Alan. Lord Alan is so amazing. Mommy, Lord Alan is so majestic. It's Lord Alan, the Earl's son, indeed, like father, like son. Lord Alan's appearance at this moment reminds me of the Earl when he was young. Alan's entry into the city caused a sensation throughout Thistle Flower City. Everyone came to watch this Earl's second son who was once not favored. The Alan who was once discussed and ridiculed, at this moment he was like the brightest star, praised by everyone. Soon, in the awe-inspiring, envious, and yearning gazes of all the city residents, Alan led the wolf cavalry slowly into Thistle Flower Fortress. At this moment, outside the city gate, Elon had been waiting for a long time. When he saw Alan, his whole body felt sour. He stared wide-eyed, watching Alan in knight armor riding a handsome magical wolf slowly walking towards him. He couldn't help but feel a sense of inferiority in his heart. "Alan, are these your men?" Elon asked with some disbelief. "Otherwise, it's just a wolf cavalry that I casually cultivated." Alan smiled and said easily. "Casually." Elon closed himself off. He increasingly hated talking to Alan. "Let's go, I'll take you to see father. He is currently meeting with important people." "Important people?" Alan raised his eyebrows slightly and followed Elon in with the wolf cavalry. "Father." Alan quickly saw his father, Earl Albert. At this moment, he was talking with two young-looking men and women. Alan didn't pay too much attention, jumped off the back of the silver moon wolf, and walked towards Albert. "Oh, Alan, you're here so soon. This is..." Albert was a little shocked. Originally he thought Alan would not arrive until tomorrow, but Alan actually arrived today, and Albert stared wide-eyed. This Earl, who had always been known for his composure, was a little dazed looking at Alan's wolf cavalry. "At father's summons, I dare not neglect. This is the wolf cavalry I cultivated. I hope it can catch father's eye." Alan saluted Albert, and said in a calm tone. The corner of Albert's mouth twitched. Catch his eye. This was more than just catching his eye, it was simply shocking to him. He knew that he himself did not have a magical beast army. What a joke. Magical beasts are extremely expensive species. And extremely difficult to tame. Wanting a magical beast army, how easy is that? Albert looked at the tall, mighty, and handsome silver moon wolf behind Alan, and couldn't help but feel a sense of unreality in his heart. Last time he felt that Alan had undergone a huge change, but he really didn't expect that the second time they met, Alan would once again give him a surprise. "What kind of magical beast is this?" Albert asked with some shock in his tone. "This is the silver moon wolf, my partner," Alan said calmly. "Wow, what a handsome magical beast." At this moment, beside Albert, a man and a woman in gorgeous clothes suddenly spoke. "Alan, this is the Grand Duke's eldest son, also His Highness Prince Reinerson of the Principality. This is Her Highness Princess Leishui." Albert came back to his senses. He took a deep breath, suppressed the excitement in his heart, and introduced the man and woman beside him to Alan. Alan was stunned when he heard this, but then he bowed slightly to these two men and women of noble status. "Alan has met His Highness the Prince, Her Highness the Princess." "Baron Alan, hello." Reinerson said to Alan. "I can't believe you can tame a group of magical beasts, Baron Alan, you are very excellent." Alan smiled. "Thank you for your praise, Your Highness, it's just good luck." Albert was speechless in his heart. Good luck. Was this something that good luck could explain? There were many people with good luck. Who the hell could have a magical beast army? "All right, Alan, you go down and rest first. The others will arrive successively in a day or two. I still have things to discuss with His Highness the Prince." Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Alan nodded immediately when he heard this and slowly left with the wolf cavalry. At the same time, he felt a little active in his heart. Grand Duke Leon had his children come to Thistle Flower territory. Was this to let his children come to the front line to temper themselves? Alan recalled the prince and princess he had seen before. The two of them looked relaxed and did not seem to be here to temper themselves at all. Instead, it was like a vacation. Alan shook his head, not caring too much. The reputation of the Grand Prince was much better than the second prince that Nick had offended. As long as it didn't affect him, Alan didn't want to care about anything. Looking at Alan's leaving back, the three people present also had some active thoughts in their hearts. In the following 2 days, the lords from various places rushed to Thistle Flower territory, and the outside of the city was already densely packed with troops. Adding in the army cultivated by Earl Albert himself, Alan estimated that there must be at least 30,000 people. As expected of a frontier earl, his strength was still very strong. After the last lord arrived, Albert immediately gathered the lords from various places. Lords, viscounts, barons, you should have felt it during this period of time. The Blue Moon Principality is full of malice towards our Leon Principality, and even wants to replace our Leon Principality. The actions of the Blue Moon Principality have angered the Grand Duke. Today, I, Albert, will announce that Thistle Flower territory will enter a state of full preparedness for war. Everyone set off to Seagull Port, where there are enough ships to carry our army and flatten the Blue Moon Principality. Albert said loudly, and immediately, the lords under him expressed their willingness to follow the Earl to flatten the Blue Moon Principality. These two are His Highness Prince Reinerson and Her Highness Princess Leishui, who are here to represent the Grand Duke to express their condolences and supervise the battle. Albert gave the position to the two children of the Grand Duke on the side. This scene left Alan speechless. Sure enough, this formalism exists everywhere. His Highness Prince Reinerson calmly and composedly said a bunch of nonsense for a long time, and when Alan was about to fall asleep, Albert ordered all the lords to set off to Seagull Port. Seagull Port was a little further away from Thistle Flower City than Rose Town was from Thistle Flower City, plus the bumpy journey and the large number of people. After all, not all lords could be like Alan, with warhorses for all their warriors. So the main force took a full 2.5 days to reach Seagull Port. P.S. Accepted a reader's suggestion and revised the next chapter a bit, don't mind, big guys. Chapter 64 Protecting His Highness the Prince. Closing parenthesis. Hey, Baron Alan, can I ride your magical beast? On the road, the two noble prince and princess often called Alan to their side to chat. As for the reason, mainly because Alan's team was too excellent. Number 39 to 39. Everyone was equipped with warhorses, and there were even 50 warriors riding magical beasts. This was definitely the most eye-catching presence in the entire army gathered from all the nobles of the Thistle Flower territory. In addition, Alan was Albert's son, and it was said that he was very powerful and handsome. This made both His Royal Highness the Prince and Her Royal Highness the Princess willing to be close to Alan. And just when they arrived at Seagull Harbor, Her Highness Princess Leisha couldn't help but ask Alan if she could ride his Silver Moon Wolf. Alan said there was no problem. After silently making the Silver Moon Wolf more docile in his heart, he helped Leisha onto the Silver Moon Wolf's back. Wow, it feels so comfortable, Brother Leneson. Do I look very majestic, like a female knight? Princess Leisha said excitedly to Prince Leneson. Leneson smiled and said dotingly, my princess is of course the most majestic female knight. Baron Alan, may I ask, can I buy a Silver Moon Wolf? My sister seems to like it very much. Leneson turned his head and asked. Alan was speechless in his heart. We're about to go to war, and you're telling me you want to buy my mount. If Earl Albert hadn't asked him to accompany these two, he would have turned around and left long ago. Your Royal Highness, I'm afraid it's not possible now. Alan said with a helpless expression in his knight armor, I still need it to follow me into battle. Oh, of course, I know. I mean after we win. Leneson said with a smile. Alan nodded. In that case, there is no problem at all. Thank you, Baron Alan. The Thistle Flower family will always be nobles of the Lane Duchy. Leneson said very happily. Alan was stunned. Huh. Did he just flatter the great prince? Really? Can I have a Silver Moon Wolf after the war is over? Princess Leisha laughed happily. Thank you, Baron Alan. Alan dealt with these two noble princes and princesses, but his gaze was always on the sea. There were a full 500 three-masted sailing ships, enough to accommodate 50,000 people. However, considering the need for sailors and captains, 500 three-masted sailing ships were almost just right for the Earl's army. Your Highness, the ships are ready, we are about to set off. Would you and Her Royal Highness the Princess like to stay here temporarily, and we will pick you up after we have leveled the Blue Moon Duchy? Earl Albert walked over and said in a very steady tone. No need, Earl Albert. Since we are here on behalf of our father, we naturally want to advance and retreat with you. Besides, I am also a level 6 Silver Knight, and my sister Leisha is a level 4 magician. We both have the ability to protect ourselves, so please don't worry about us and focus on the battle. We want to personally witness the moment our warriors level the Blue Moon Duchy. Leneson shook his head firmly, indicating that he must follow the army to the battlefield. This made Earl Albert's expression change slightly. Earl Albert was also slightly emotional at this moment. As expected of the great prince, who is famous for his virtuousness, he was actually able to bravely stay with the warriors, which would definitely boost the morale of the army. But at the same time, Albert also became worried. Although the great prince had good strength, he was, after all, the great prince, and the battlefield was extremely dangerous. If something really happened, then he, Albert, would definitely bear the Duke of Lane's anger. Albert glanced at Leneson and Leisha, feeling helpless, and could only agree to their idea. Alan, you and His Royal Highness the Prince will take the same ship and protect His Royal Highness the Prince. Albert glanced at the somewhat lazy Alan on the side and said in a somewhat forceful tone. This little brat had silently cultivated an entire cavalry regiment, and also an elite wolf cavalry. Even after so many days, the Earl was still a little shocked, and even after the shock, there was still a little envy. Of course, the proud Earl would not admit this. Alan could be said to be the strongest person besides his subordinates. With him protecting the prince, Albert could rest assured. Alan was stunned when he heard this. Father, yes, sir. Alan originally wanted to refute, he was clearly here to fight, protect the prince. What a joke. But when he saw Albert's murderous eyes, Alan curled his lips and agreed. After Albert left, Alan sighed. What's wrong? Does Baron Alan seem unwilling to be on the same ship with us? Leneson said with a smile. No, Your Royal Highness is joking. It is my greatest honor to be on the same ship with you. Alan said insincerely. HMPH, you're clearly unhappy, liar. Leisha pouted and directly exposed Alan's lie. When Alan heard this, he simply stopped pretending. He was just unhappy, so what? Actually, Baron Alan doesn't need to worry. Being with us may not be a bad thing. Leneson said meaningfully to Alan. Alan was stunned. What do you mean? HMPH, we brought a team of magicians. When the time comes, just watch, and let you see the power of magicians. Leisha said proudly. P.S. Chapter 2. I just spent some time revising the previous chapter, so the update is late. Sorry. It may not be very well revised, but I have tried my best. I hope everyone can like it. Finally, please ask for flowers, and Chapter 65 Great Prince's Shock and Appreciation. Magician Team. Alan was shocked. Magicians were noble professions. It was said that powerful magicians possessed the power to destroy the world. Having a magician team was like suddenly having missiles in the age of cold weapons on Earth. HMPH, we are the protagonists on the battlefield. Leisha said triumphantly. Alan smiled when he heard this. I see. He suddenly felt energetic again. Soon, the three of them arrived at the port to prepare to board the ship. According to Earl Albert, the Lane Duchy had already begun to send troops one after another, and everyone was almost heading towards the Blue Moon Duchy. Boarding the ship now would allow them to keep up with the main force. Of course, a portion of the army would continue to rush to the battlefield later. Alan, you brat, you're so lucky to be with the prince. Along was standing at the port at this moment, wearing knight armor, looking somewhat high-spirited. It's okay, I guess. Alan said lightly. Along really didn't know what to say at this moment. He felt that before Alan was 16 years old, the focus of the world was on him. But since Alan left Thistle Flower territory and became the Lord of Rose Town, he found that Alan had become the focus of everyone. Even this time, the prince and princess actually ignored his diligence all the way, but instead had a soft spot for Alan and were quite interested in him. Now Alan was on a three-masted sailing ship with the prince and princess, which really made Along feel uncomfortable. Those were the Duke's own son and daughter. Getting involved with them would definitely bring many benefits and endless gains. Along thought sourly. Of course, he also knew that the reason why Alan was able to gain the favor of the prince and princess in such a short period of time was entirely because this guy had wolf cavalry. Now the news that Alan had wolf cavalry had spread, and everyone praised Alan's wolf cavalry. In an instant, it seemed that Alan was the eldest son of the earl, and he became the focus of the world. All the lords praised him, and he, the real eldest son of the earl, seemed to have become the second son, and no one cared about him. Alan didn't care about Along's thoughts. Did he need to curry favor with any princes or princesses? Alan expressed his disdain in his heart. There was still a potion master Nick who had offended the third prince in his family. Alan didn't care about the identities of any princes or princesses. He only cared about how much merit he could gain. At the same time, he only cared about the countdown to the war mission in his system. War mission countdown, 3 hours, 29 minutes, 17 seconds. As long as he could kill or defeat the enemy on the battlefield, he could gain merit, and then he could buy some good things in the merit shop. Alan took a deep breath, said goodbye to Along, and followed Lenison and the others onto a three-masted sailing ship. On the entire ship, besides the team of 20 magicians brought by the prince and princess, there were only Alan and his wolf cavalry. As for the other cavalry, Alan had them scattered on the surrounding 10 ships. Half an hour later, all the ships set sail at the same time, heading to the battlefield. Alan didn't go to the cabin to rest. Having a system, he knew the exact time of the outbreak of the war, and of course he needed to make good use of this time. Alan first let Marco and the wolf cavalry completely relax and rest for 2 hours. And he contacted the sea lion beasts of Rose Town in his heart. At this moment, on the coast of Rose Town, the sea cavalry, who were originally training, suddenly felt the change in the sea lion beasts. 50 sea lion beasts roared at them at the same time. Suddenly, the eyes of all the sea cavalry lit up. It's the Lord's signal. Quick, prepare and set off immediately. Soon, 50 sea cavalrymen rode sea lion beasts and slowly left Rose Town. Number 40 to 40. 2 hours later, Alan woke up all the wolf cavalry. Attention everyone, prepare for battle. Alan stared at the calm sea. In half an hour, they would meet the ships of the Blue Moon Duchy. At that time, it would be a fierce battle. Although they had set out with a full 500 three-masted sailing ships, the sea was vast, and all the ships naturally couldn't stay crowded together. Of course, they gradually dispersed. However, Albert was still more concerned about the safety of Prince Leinson and Princess Leisha, and his ship had been nearby. As for the others, they had long since sailed away. Sir, it doesn't seem like there's any sign of the enemy. Marco cautiously looked at the sea first, and found that there didn't seem to be any enemies. Don't be careless. The enemy always appears when you are most relaxed. In half an hour, the enemy will appear. Pass the message to the surrounding ships and tell them to be vigilant. Alan said to Marco in a low voice. Marco revealed a hint of surprise and caution. He didn't doubt Alan's words at all. Soon, he passed the message to the surrounding 10 ships carrying Alan's cavalry regiment. After making all these preparations, Alan walked towards the cabin lounge again. Your Highness, I have something I want to tell you. Alan told Leinson about encountering the enemy in half an hour, hoping he would prepare early. Leinson was shocked when he heard this. He pointed to a sea chart on a table in front of him and said, Baron Alan, you are truly a nobleman with keen insight. I was just looking at the sea chart and happened to discover that in half an hour, our ships will encounter a deserted island. The terrain there is complex. Although the islands are not large, they are surrounded by mountains, and the islands are interspersed with dense and intricate rivers, making it an excellent ambush location. Alan was also shocked when he heard this, but he remained calm on the surface. So your Highness has already discovered it. I was being too talkative. Leinson shook his head. He looked at Alan's eyes filled with appreciation and liking. Baron Alan, you didn't do anything wrong. I only just discovered it myself. It seems you possess outstanding military talent and will surely become a pillar of the duchy in the future. P.S. Chapter 3, and all data, the author is miserable. Chapter 66 Magic Attack, National War begins. Hearing the great prince's praise and compliments, Alan accepted them without blushing or skipping a beat. Your Highness, we need to prepare as soon as possible. I have already notified everyone that we will encounter the enemy in half an hour and told them to be ready. Alan said softly, I think the mage squad also needs to prepare. You have already passed the message down. Alan, it seems I didn't misjudge you. You did a good job. Lynson showed a smile. Now, the more he looked at Alan, the more pleasing he found him. I'll go and get the mage squad ready for battle. Leisha immediately volunteered and ran out. Alan smiled and then said to Lynson, Your Highness, then I'll go out first. He turned and left directly. Watching Alan's departing figure, a strange light flashed in Lynson's eyes. Before, he only felt that this young man, Alan, had some differences from others. Plus, there was the Silver Moon Wolf. Only then was Lynson willing to interact with Alan more. After all, his younger sister, Leisha, liked the Silver Moon Wolf very much. But now it seems that this young lord is completely beyond his imagination. He is a rare talent. Lynard revealed a hint of a smile. Soon, half an hour passed, and the fleet encountered a group of islands scattered on the sea. These islands were not far from each other, and the islands were covered with dense mountains, making it impossible to see the situation inside clearly. Seeing this, Alan's eyes showed a hint of anticipation. At this moment, their ships had stopped not far from these small islands. Behind him, 20 mages were simultaneously casting spells. This was the first time Alan had seen mages in action. They were wearing black robes and holding magic wands in their hands. They were close together, simultaneously chanting the same spell. Soon, in everyone's shocked gaze, a huge, fiery red, mysterious magic circle suddenly appeared in the sky above the islands. Breath of the Fire God. The mages simultaneously raised the magic wands in their hands. Alan could clearly feel the magic elemental power around him vibrating violently. Countless fire elements and earth elements gathered on the magic circle in the sky. The next moment, something that shocked Alan happened. From the huge, fiery red magic circle, huge rocks carrying raging fire fell down one by one. It was as if it were raining, and countless meteorites fell. Boom, boom. In an instant, all the islands were ignited, and the fire instantly engulfed the entire sea area. Ah, ah, ah. No, don't. Magic, it's magic. Ah, help. Under the attack of magic, the ships of the Blue Moon Duchy, which were originally hidden among the islands, were instantly destroyed by magic. The terrifying magical power shattered and burned their ships. Almost all of the Blue Moon Duchy's army ambushing here was wiped out in an instant. Alan didn't care too much about this. Soon, the screams inside gradually disappeared. Obviously, the people inside were almost dead. Ding, congratulations to the host for obtaining 700 merit points. The war mission is activated, the national war begins, and the merit shop is activated. Alan immediately revealed a hint of surprise. The start of the war mission and the opening of the merit shop were not surprising to him. After all, he had already known about it. But he had just obtained 700 merit points. What was going on? Alan clearly hadn't taken action, and even his subordinates hadn't taken action. How did he get such a large amount of merit? Ding, the host played a decisive role in this search. Although he did not directly defeat the opponent, he made a great contribution to it, rewarding the host with 1/3 of the merit points for the total number of defeated enemies. The system immediately explained. Alan's eyes lit up when he heard this. Are you saying that, in addition to directly defeating the enemy, the more contributions I make, the more merit points I get? That's right. The system replied affirmatively. Awesome. Alan couldn't help but say in a low voice. At the same time, he began to check the merit shop that the system had opened. Species category. Dragon, legendary creature, 500,000 merit points. Behemoth, overlord creature, 300,000 merit points. Giant, overlord creature, 250,000 merit points. Griffin, magical creature, 8,000 merit points. Siren, magical creature, 8,000 merit points. Comma. A dense list of species appeared in front of Alan, dazzling him and making his heart palpitate. The prices above were not the prices for unlocking the species, but the prices for directly buying one. Too damn expensive. Alan smacked his lips, then looked at the next category. Nature Spirit category. Nature Spirit, 10,000 merit points. Fairy, 100,000 merit points. Holy Nature Spirit, 500,000 merit points. Alan, still expensive. He continued to look at the next categories: Weapon category, Gold coin category, Experience points category, Acceleration card category. After reading them, Alan's expression was solemn. At this moment, the thing he wanted to do most was to encounter enemies, a large number of enemies. Chapter 67 War Decline. Come out, my sea cavalry. With Alan's reminder, the Lionheart Duchy won the first encounter with the enemy with 0 casualties. Afterwards, the fleet left the island, spending a lot of time. Number 41 to 41. Attention everyone, prepare for battle. An hour later, Alan and his group encountered the Blue Moon Duchy's fleet once again. At this moment, not far from them, a dense formation of Blue Moon Duchy ships was blocking their path. In the next moment, the ships of both sides closed in on each other. In this world without gunpowder, magical attacks seemed to be the only means of long-range combat. In ordinary battles, even knights could only engage in close-quarters melee combat. Brothers, warriors, kill them all. Slaughter this bunch of scum. Victory to the Blue Moon Duchy. The Blue Moon Duchy's sailing ships sailed towards the Lionheart Duchy's fleet. Mages, use magic attacks. Archers, get ready. When they get close, unleash your arrows. All cavalry, dismount and seek them out. Let them know I'm not to be trifled with. Alan, with a calm expression, shouted loudly. Immediately, magic and arrows shot out from Alan and the ships near him, heading towards the approaching ships. Because they had mages, Alan's attacks were very effective. Soon, 10 of the enemy's sailing ships were sunk. Damn it, they have mages. Concentrate our forces and take out the mages first. The people of the Blue Moon Duchy weren't fools either. After suffering a brief loss, they immediately adjusted their tactics and steered their ships to attack Alan and his group. Defend, defend, damn it, protect the mages. Earl Albert's voice echoed throughout the fleet. But it was useless. The Lionheart Duchy was originally a continental nation, and their sailors and captains were far inferior to those of the Blue Moon Duchy in ship handling. Although they were both three-masted sailing ships, the Blue Moon Duchy, as a maritime duchy, excelled in naval warfare. This quickly became apparent. After the Blue Moon Duchy identified their target, the Lionheart Duchy's ships were unable to react in time and were brutally torn open by their concentrated attack. In an instant, the entire Lionheart Duchy's fleet fell into chaos. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. At the same time, the Blue Moon Duchy's fleet advanced rapidly, heading straight for Alan and his group. Damn it! Earl Albert couldn't sit still any longer. That was where His Highness the Prince was. In an instant, he soared into the sky, his battle aura erupting as he prepared to rescue Alan and his group. But in the next moment, a familiar voice appeared. Ha ha ha, Earl Albert of the Thorns, the people below are fighting. It wouldn't be good for you, a gold knight, to interfere, would it? Earl Ursus's loud laughter rang out. He had been waiting in the fleet for Earl Albert to make a move. Earl Ursus was extremely confident in the Blue Moon Duchy's naval warfare capabilities. Having lived at sea for so many years, there was no way they could lose a naval battle to a landlocked nation. HMPH. A mere level 7 knight dares to be presumptuous in front of me. Earl Albert, clad in golden knight armor engraved with a thorn flower pattern, swung the knight's longsword in his hand, and a terrifying sword aura instantly swept across the entire sea, forcing Earl Ursus to retreat. One isn't enough, how about two? As Earl Ursus retreated, a second gold knight, also clad in golden knight armor, suddenly appeared to Earl Albert's right. A second level 7 gold knight. Earl Albert's expression became slightly solemn. He sheathed his longsword and swung it at the gold knight who was charging towards him. HMPH, I've long wanted to see Earl Thorn's Gale sword. That person revealed a smile, and without dodging, also swung his sword. Boom! 2 sword auras exploded in the sky. Earl Albert remained motionless, but the other person's body was forced back a distance in the sky because it couldn't withstand the power of an level 8 knight. 2 clowns, that's all. The maritime duchy should stay obediently at sea. The continent is not for you weaklings to touch. Earl Albert's expression was cold. At this moment, he was unable to rescue Alan and his group. After all, he was facing 2 level 7 knights. Watching the 3 gold knights clad in golden knight armor fighting in the sky, a trace of longing flashed in Alan's eyes. What powerful beings, those are gold knights. Marco's tone was somewhat yearning. Alan smiled. Marco, now is not the time to be paying attention to them. Alan's words brought Marco back to his senses. He then realized that a dozen ships from the Blue Moon Duchy had already approached their location. Your Highness, please go to the cabin and wait for a while. A hint of fighting spirit appeared in Alan's eyes. No, I want to fight alongside you. Larnerson's expression was solemn. He hadn't expected the Blue Moon Duchy's naval combat power to be so strong, easily tearing through their defenses. Larsno, you take the magic squad and hide. Mages don't have the power for close combat. Larnerson said loudly. Larsno immediately nodded. Understood, Brother Larnerson, you be careful too. While Alan's side was taking action, on the approaching sailing ship of the Blue Moon Duchy, an level 6 knight laughed loudly at Alan and his group. Little fellows, obediently wait for death. Brothers, go. Kill these little fellows, take out those mages, and this victory will ultimately belong to the Blue Moon Duchy. Charge. Victory to the Blue Moon Duchy. The knights of the Blue Moon Duchy laughed loudly, ordering their men to bring the ships closer. Alan, if there's a chance, take my sister and leave first. Larnerson's expression was solemn. The current situation had exceeded his expectations. Your Highness, don't worry. Although the Blue Moon Duchy's naval power is indeed formidable, that's all there is to it. Alan smiled. His expression was calm, and there was no sign of panic. Not only him, but all the surrounding warriors also had calm expressions. They even looked at the approaching people of the Blue Moon Duchy with an expression as if they were looking at dead men. Larnerson was stunned. Looking at Alan's calm face, a thought rose in his mind. Could it be that this young baron had a backup plan? No, impossible, he's just a baron, what means could he have? Just as Larnerson was thinking, he heard Alan's loud voice beside him. Hey, you scum on the other side, have you ever seen the sea's fury? Alan's words made the people of the Blue Moon Duchy laugh. You little bastard, I've lived at sea since I was a child, what haven't I seen? An level 6 knight revealed a cruel smile. Wait a while, and I'll let you know what despair is. Alan smiled upon hearing this. No need to wait. Now, I'll let you see what despair is, what a true sea overlord is. Come out, my sea cavalry. P.S. Regarding the issue of fewer updates yesterday, it is indeed my problem. Yesterday, my mentality collapsed because the express delivery had arrived at the company. I thought I could sign the contract and change the status. I was already preparing to put it on the shelves, but I was notified that I could only change the status and put it on the shelves within 3 days. What does this mean? That is to say, it may be put on the shelves on the same day, or it may be put on the shelves 3 days later. Everyone has seen that this book has exceeded 120,000 words and has met the requirements for being put on the shelves, but the result is like this. I really almost vomited blood yesterday, and as a result, my mentality exploded, which led to not writing much at night. I'm sorry everyone. I've figured it out today and recovered. If it's not put on the shelves, then it won't be put on the shelves. I will also write free chapters and update until it's put on the shelves. I'm saying sorry to everyone here. I'm very sorry that the update volume didn't reach yesterday. Chapter 68 Sea Cavalry, Charge. Closing parenthesis. The Sea Cavalry. What does it mean? Larnerson was slightly stunned, and just as he was confused, the sea in front of him instantly set off monstrous waves. Streams of water snakes composed of seawater rushed out of the sea, instantly tearing apart all the sailing ships of the Blue Moon Duchy. Boom, boom. The surging sea was like the sea god roaring, the seawater instantly rising and falling, submerging all the 3-masted sailing ships torn apart by the water snakes. Many warriors of the Blue Moon Duchy didn't even have time to utter painful wails before they were completely submerged in the seabed. And some knights of the Blue Moon Duchy with decent strength could only desperately use their battle aura and the wooden blocks around them to keep themselves from sinking into the seawater. No. When an level 6 knight of the Blue Moon Duchy, who had been clamoring before, came back to his senses, there were only 2 or 3 knights left beside him. Everyone else had been completely submerged by the seawater. Being submerged by seawater on this vast sea, the ending is definitely tragic, there's no need to think about it. This knight never expected that the originally certain advantage would change so quickly. Just now, they still felt that victory was in their grasp, but in the next moment, they were defeated. Alan walked to the bow of the ship, looking down at the scattered dozen or so surviving knights of the Blue Moon Duchy on the sea. His eyes were full of mockery and disdain. Number 42 to 42. Hey, how's it going? I'm a man of my word. If I say I'll make you despair, I absolutely won't let you see a glimmer of hope. Alan's words made the eyes of the dozen or so knights still struggling in the sea turn red. Damn little beast, I'll kill you. The level 6 knight's eyes were bloodshot. On those ships were his younger brother and all the warriors from his territory. It could be said that it was all the power of their territory. But this military force, which took him 10 years to build, was destroyed in an instant. At this moment, he only wanted to kill Alan. As a level 6 knight, with his battle aura erupting at close range, he flew directly from the sea, wielding his knight's sword and slashing at Alan. Behind him, a dozen knights with level 3 or 4 cultivation, equally roaring in anger, followed the level 6 knight with grief and despair, making their last stand. I want you to die. The level 6 knight's whole body erupted with battle aura, the sword emitting a chilling aura. Alan, be careful. Faced with the desperate strike of a level 6 knight, even Linson, also a level 6, felt extremely dangerous. Alan, however, completely disregarded it. He took a deep breath, and his right hand rested on the hilt of his knight's longsword. Wind Duke's sword, Wind of Roses. A trace of fighting intent flashed in Alan's eyes. His right hand violently drew the longsword, and he stomped on the deck, rushing into the air. The longsword in his hand precisely and ruthlessly slashed across everyone's neck. A trace of blood flowed with the wounds, like roses blooming in the air. At this time, the benefits of Alan being a dragon knight were fully highlighted. With the assistance of the dragon in cultivation, his battle aura, physical strength, reaction, and speed far exceeded knights of the same level. His sword was wrapped in a faint layer of battle aura, directly cutting off the level 6 knight's battle aura and longsword, and then, in his shocked gaze, cutting off his head. Everything only took a few breaths. Alan's figure was extremely swift and elegant, and his swordsmanship was even more perfect and exquisite. Even Prince Linson was slightly dazed for a moment. What amazing swordsmanship! Baron Alan is far more powerful than I imagined. Linson's eyes towards Alan became completely fiery. Alan sheathed his sword, his figure landing on the deck, while the opposing knights all fell into the sea, staining the seawater red. Lord, you are becoming more and more powerful. Marco sincerely congratulated Alan. Marco, one day you will be this strong too. Alan smiled slightly. He was increasingly dissatisfied with his own strength. He looked at the 3 golden knights fighting fiercely in the sky, then took a deep breath. Everyone, listen to my orders, break through the opposing fleet for me. Sea cavalry lead the way, the remaining ships follow. Alan immediately gave the order. The battlefield of this war was even larger. Alan could see with his naked eyes that almost the entire sea surface was erupting with naval battles. And further away, other Golden Knights were also fighting. Alan couldn't control the Golden Knights' side, but on the ordinary battlefield, he, Alan, was the brightest star. Yes, Lord. Under Alan's command, his warriors immediately began to have the sailors on the ships prepare to set sail. At the same time, behind all the ships, huge white marine magical beasts appeared on the sea surface. On these magical beasts, sat warriors wearing armor. These were Alan's sea cavalry. The 50 huge sea lion beasts were not clumsy at all, but extremely fast, and their movements were extremely flexible. When the huge bodies passed through the fleet, they did not cause any chaos, appearing orderly. What are these magical beasts? The Lion's Kingdom has unknown sea beasts. Linson was so shocked that his mouth couldn't close. The huge sea lion beasts and their powerful and terrifying aura were not ordinary magical beasts, but completely gave the feeling of sea overlords. Could it be that they were the ones who stirred up the raging waves and solved the Blue Moon Principality's fleet just now? Linson was not stupid and instantly knew that the scene just now, like the anger of the sea, was the credit of these magical beasts. And these magical beasts seemed to be listening to Alan's orders. Heavens, war god above, is Alan really just a baron? Lynson really couldn't believe that Alan's identity was just a baron. Could it be that he is a top talent cultivated by Earl Albert? Lynson thought in his heart. Apart from this explanation, it was difficult for him to believe that a country baron could possess such powerful power. Your Highness, are you ready? Alan turned his head and said to Lynson. Lynson came back to his senses, a flash of light flashing in his eyes. He looked at Alan's confident and calm face, and also showed a slight smile. Of course, Baron Alan, this war will be the stage for your rise. Let me be an audience and witness your perfect performance. Lynson had completely calmed down. Alan possessed such powerful sea cavalry, enough to bridge the gap between them and the Blue Moon Principality's naval power, and even had enough power to crush the opponent. Hearing Lynson's words, Alan showed a slight smile. Then I won't be polite. He felt his right hand clench into a fist, heavily waving it towards the Blue Moon Principality's fleet defense line. Sea Cavalry, charge for me. P.S. Chapter 2, Review Votes, sorry for the wait, Chapter 2. Working hard on writing, I need the support of free flowers and votes. Chapter 69 Level 7 Knight Alan, Sword slays the angry bear Earl. Review votes. Roar. All the sea lion beasts simultaneously felt the fighting intent deep in Alan's heart. They roared in unison, leading the sea cavalry directly towards the original Blue Moon Principality's fleet. As an ancient magical species, the sea lion beasts possessed powerful control over the sea, and also possessed powerful water magic. The sea lion beasts were like battle fortresses on the sea, sweeping away everything. Ah, damn it, what are those? The lion's kingdom has unknown sea beasts. The appearance of the sea lion beasts immediately attracted the attention of all the nearby ships. The people of the lion's kingdom, because of Lynson's notification, did not attack the sea cavalry. But the people of the Blue Moon Principality completely ignored it. No matter what magical beasts they are, kill them. The knights of the Blue Moon Principality took action one after another, preparing to kill the sea lion beasts. But how could the dignified ancient magical species be harmed by some low-level knights? Water blades and water snakes rose from the sea, tearing apart the attacking warriors, knights, and even ships. In almost a few breaths, the battle situation was directly reversed. Alan jumped directly onto a sea lion beast, commanding the sea lion beast to begin wantonly slaughtering on the sea. Ah, Lord, save me. No. On the sea, the Blue Moon Principality's fleet was directly torn open one gap after another by Alan leading the sea cavalry. All the ships in front of the sea lion beasts were torn to pieces. The screams of the Blue Moon Principality's warriors rose and fell. The sea had gradually been dyed red with blood. Ha ha ha. Albert laughed loudly when he saw this scene. Originally, he was still anxious to rescue, but now it seemed that he didn't need to take action at all. His youngest son had actually given him such a big surprise. Earl Angry Bear, it seems that your warriors can't stop our footsteps from flattening the Blue Moon Principality. Albert became more and more calm and collected. His strength originally exceeded the two earls of the Blue Moon Principality. If it hadn't been for his concern for the safety of His Highness Prince Lynson, he would have hung up the two level 7 knights in front of him and hammered them long ago. But it wasn't too late now either. Damn beast, it's you. Earl Angry Bear watched as half of his ships had been destroyed by the sea lion beasts. The entire battle situation had been completely lost. The sea defense line had been completely torn open by Alan. The Lion's Kingdom's ships drove straight in, gradually devouring his fleet. He was about to explode with anger. The most hateful thing was that he recognized Alan and his group as the people who had repeatedly robbed his tribute ships before. How could Earl Angry Bear endure this anger? Alan didn't even look at Earl Angry Bear. At this moment, he was holding his sword in his right hand, charging and rampaging across the entire sea with the sea lion beast. The sea lion beast's powerful body was enough to smash a 3-masted sailing ship even without using magic. Not to mention that at this moment, under Alan's command, these sea lion beasts were wantonly opening map cannons in the Blue Moon Principality's fleet. Various water magic spells were released without regard for cost. Sailing ships were destroyed with every breath. Little bastard. Earl Angry Bear almost spat blood. White Shark, you hold them back for 3 breaths. Earl Angry Bear suddenly said to Earl White Shark beside him. Angry Bear, don't be impulsive, First stabilize the battle situation, wait for the Grand Duke to arrive. As long as the Grand Duke appears, we are bound to win. White Shark frowned slightly. Now, it was already very difficult for him and Earl Angry Bear to fight against Albert. Number 43-43. If Earl Grim Bear had acted immediately, Earl White Shark would have been defeated quickly. No, White Shark, that little bastard is the guy who boarded my tribute ship twice before. I was already furious that I didn't kill him last time. This time, he dares to be so presumptuous. I must kill him. Otherwise, all our people will be killed by him. Earl Grim Bear said with a grim expression. Earl White Shark's expression also sank slightly. At this moment, the naval battle situation below was extremely unfavorable to the Blue Moon Principality, and their battle line had begun to collapse. Once Alan continues to lead the sea lion beasts to sweep across the sea, then the warriors of their Blue Moon Principality will soon be wiped out. 3 breaths. Finish him. Earl White Shark's expression was slightly solemn. 3 breaths is long enough for a count-level expert. Don't worry, last time it was because this kid ran fast. This time, let's see how he runs. Earl Grim Bear revealed a cruel smile, his gaze falling on Alan on the sea. Grim Shark soared. Earl White Shark immediately burst out with all his strength and charged towards Albert. Albert raised his eyebrows slightly, and at this moment, Earl Grim Bear turned around and leapt, appearing not far from Alan. Alan, be careful. Albert's expression changed instantly. The fighting spirit on his body soared to the sky. He dodged Earl White Shark's attack and came towards Earl Grim Bear. Too late. Earl Grim Bear's expression was ferocious. Little bastard, die for me. A thick sword energy fell from the long sword in his hand. Alan's expression changed slightly. Damn it, you big bear, a dignified earl is actually ambushing me. Everyone, scatter. Alan said quickly, while he quickly jumped out and appeared on a Blue Moon Principality ship not far away. Boom. The sea lion beasts quickly dodged with the sea cavalry. Although the nearest sea lion beast had dodged in time, it was too close after all, and was still severely injured by the sword. Fresh blood immediately flowed from the sea lion beast's body. Roar. The sea lion beast suddenly became furious, and its magic power completely exploded. Water snakes rose from the sea and went towards Earl Grim Bear. HMPH. A bunch of beasts. Earl Grim Bear's expression turned slightly cold. I'll deal with you first. He waved his hand, and countless sword energies spurted out, heading towards the sea lion beasts below. Kill these magical beasts first, then kill that little bastard. All of this happened extremely quickly, and the sea cavalrymen couldn't dodge at all. Kill. Fight for the Lord. After knowing that they couldn't dodge, all the sea cavalrymen immediately began to fight back desperately. It's just that they ultimately didn't have enough powerful strength. In front of a level 7 knight, whether it was the sea lion beast or them, they seemed extremely fragile. HMPH, ants like trash. Earl Grim Bear's expression was calm. Hey, big bear, who the hell are you calling ants? At this moment, a cold voice appeared behind Earl Grim Bear. What? Earl Grim Bear's expression changed. He didn't notice Alan's presence at all. Before he could react, a terrifying fighting spirit wave erupted behind him at this moment. At this moment, Alan was actually standing in the air like a golden knight. He held a long sword and slashed at Earl Grim Bear. Level 7 knight. No. Earl Grim Bear roared, and the fighting spirit on his body exploded, but he couldn't resist Alan's sword at all. In an instant, the golden knight armor on Earl Grim Bear's body was instantly torn apart by Alan, and the sword energy penetrated Earl Grim Bear's body, cutting him into 2 pieces with one sword. Fresh blood spurted out from Earl Grim Bear's body, like a rain of blood falling down. Blue Moon Principality, Level 7 Golden Knight Earl Grim Bear has fallen. P.S. Chapter 3, and seeing that I'm working hard to code, please give me some free flowers and evaluation votes. It would be even better if you vote for. Chapter 70, greatly defeating the Blue Moon Principality fleet. Alan's expression was cold. At this moment, the power in his body had not been completely digested. At the moment when Earl Grim Bear appeared before, Alan had already opened the system's merit store. Alan certainly knew how big the gap between level 6 and level 7 was. He also knew that the only ones who could fight against Golden Knights were Golden Knights or level 7 magical beasts. Although the sea lion beast was an ancient magical species and its own strength had already reached level 5, it had no chance of winning against a level 7 knight. Therefore, at the moment when Earl Grim Bear appeared, Alan already knew that the other party wanted to come and deal with him and the others. At the same time, he also knew that he could only resist the other party after he leveled up. So, at an extremely fast speed, he instantly purchased 1000 experience points in the merit store. It cost him a full 1000 merits. Then, he immediately chose to level up, and immediately rushed into the sky and killed Earl Grim Bear after just mastering the power in his body. Fortunately, this big bear didn't take him seriously at all, otherwise Alan, who hadn't completely mastered his power, would have really had to spend some effort to get rid of him. While circulating his fighting spirit to digest the power in his body, Alan quickly mastered the powerful power of level 7. Subscribe to Chinese novel audio wave. He waved his sword twice and directly solved the remaining Blue Moon Principality ships around him. After doing all of this, Alan immediately landed on the injured sea lion beast before, and took out several bottles of potion emitting a faint green light from the item bar and sprinkled them on the sea lion beast's wound. Soon, the sea lion beast's wound began to heal. However, because the sea lion beast was too large and its wound was not small, several bottles of potion could only stop the bleeding and heal most of the wound. This sea lion beast can't continue fighting. You two come and send it back to Rose Town to recuperate. Alan said to the 2 sea cavalrymen beside him. Soon, 3 sea lion beasts withdrew from the battlefield. However, this does not have a big impact on the battle situation. Now that Alan has advanced to the Golden Knight and has the Sea Cavalry, a group of sea battle fortresses, his army has no opponents on the entire cramped battlefield. He led the sea lion beasts to frantically crush the Blue Moon Principality's fleet, and then the warriors on the ships behind him supplemented the swords one by one against those knights and warriors who were lucky enough to survive from the sea lion beasts and Alan. Alan was able to kill an entire sailing ship with a casual wave of sword energy in the sky. At this moment, he had become the center of the battlefield. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Earl White Shark only wanted to vomit blood at this moment. He couldn't accept this result at all. It was clearly agreed that Grim Bear would go and get rid of that little bastard. How could he be counter-killed without paying attention? Earl White Shark was not Albert's opponent in the first place. Only by joining forces with Earl Grim Bear could he barely contend with Albert. Now that Earl Grim Bear had accidentally fallen, the pressure on Albert was completely borne by him alone, and he was soon covered in scars. I told you a long time ago, you guys should honestly stay in the sea. The continent is not something you can hope for. Albert was much more relaxed and calm at this moment. Compared to his elegance and composure, Earl White Shark was too miserable. At this moment, the Golden Knight armor of this Golden Knight on the sea was being cut off by Albert bit by bit. Earl White Shark was covered in blood and was already at the end of his rope. Hey, Grim Bear, that idiot, I said long ago, if he joined forces with me, he might be able to resist for a while. Earl White Shark thought bitterly in his heart. He looked at the battle situation at sea. The Blue Moon Principality's fleet had been completely defeated by Alan. At this moment, the Lionheart Principality's army was chasing and killing the Blue Moon Principality's fleet that was fleeing. His expression was desolate, but his eyes were filled with perseverance. Earl Thistle Flower, do you really think you've won? Ha ha ha, this is just the beginning. When the Grand Duke appears, it will be when the Blue Moon Principality enters the continent. Earl White Shark said loudly, and he rushed towards Albert. Albert frowned slightly, and the strength of an level 8 knight erupted, killing Earl White Shark with one sword. At this point, the naval war was won by the Thistle Flower Territory army led by Albert. On the sea, with the advance of Alan's sea cavalry, the entire Blue Moon Principality's sea defense line had collapsed. The rest is just chasing after the victory. Alan let the sea cavalry lead the way, and the remaining Thistle Flower Territory fleet followed behind them. The huge fleet began to approach the Blue Moon Principality, while Alan and Albert returned to the ship. The Thistle Flower Territory army, which had just experienced a great battle, had unprecedentedly high morale. All of them were looking at Albert and Alan, who were coming from the sky, with a kind of eager gaze at this moment. The target of both of them was Lineson's ship. After all, he was His Highness the Prince, so he had to pretend to be something. As soon as the two of them landed on the ship, Linzen clapped his hands while smiling. Soon, under the leadership of His Highness the Prince, everyone around erupted with thunderous sounds and cheers. Number 44 to 44. Count Albert, Baron Alan, you have proven yourselves with your abilities and earned glory. After I return, I will definitely report the situation of this war to my father. Glory will be with you, Lionison said with a joyful expression. Albert shook his head solemnly. Your Highness, this is just the beginning. I feel that the Blue Moon Duchy seems to have a backup plan. They seem very confident. Also, Your Highness, were you injured just now? Albert's words made Lionison's smile slightly fade. Count Albert, rest assured, I am fine. Also, I must congratulate you, Count, you have a son with talent and wisdom. After speaking, he looked at Alan. Baron Alan, your performance was wonderful. Alan smiled slightly. Your Highness, as my father just said, this is just the beginning. Lionison laughed loudly upon hearing this. Ha ha ha, Alan, I admire you more and more. I like your confidence. Alan, are those sea beasts also yours? What are their names? Leshaw, who had been hiding in the cabin, also ran out at this moment. They are called sea lion beasts, Your Highness, Alan said gentlemanly. Sea lion beasts, they are so powerful. I saw them in the cabin just now. Leshaw said with shining eyes. Alan smiled and said, indeed, because of them, we can achieve the greatest victory with the least casualties. Baron Alan, you should have broken through to become a level 7 knight just now, right? Lionison rubbed Leshaw's head, stopping her from continuing to speak. Yes, Your Highness, I fortunately broke through to level 7. Unbelievable, it seems that you not only have extremely strong military talent, but also extremely terrifying cultivation talent. Baron Alan, are you willing to serve the duchy? A glimmer of anticipation flashed in Lionison's eyes. P.S. Chapter 4, please give me flowers, and all kinds of data support, thank you everyone. Late shelves testimonial. I thought it would be tomorrow before I could put it on the shelves. It seems that the result is a little better than I expected. I just looked at it and the status has been changed, so I didn't think too much. I applied to put it on the shelves. After all, I have to eat, I hope everyone understands. The listing time is 12 o'clock tonight, I hope everyone can support me at that time. The first order seems to be very important, so important that it determines future recommendations, etc. I don't know Phylou very well, so I dare not say too much. I will just say one thing, which is to ask for the support of the First Order, and also want to notify the big guys who are raising books. Don't raise them, can you support a First Order first, all you handsome and dashing readers, I want to have a good result. In addition, I would like to thank many readers for their encouragement. I will never forget in my life that after seeing the results on the first day, a reader encouraged me and directly rewarded 10,000 points. I was really touched at the time, and this touch is still in my heart. Of course, I will not forget the other masters who supported me. Thank you very much for your support, at least let me know that I still have value. Finally, let's talk about the situation on the shelves. I only have 1 or 2 manuscripts in my hand. I will try to write more before 12 o'clock. I will put it on the shelves directly for 5 chapters tonight. Then I will try my best to explode tomorrow. 10 chapters will be guaranteed within 24 hours, which can be regarded as making up for the previous updates. Finally, I looked at other books, and they all have a goal, how much will be added if they achieve any results. I thought about it and set one too. If the First Order can break 1,000, for every 200 additional orders, I will update 1 more chapter, at most 5 more chapters, this should be my limit. Finally, let me say 3 times to ask for the First Order. Ask for the First Order, ask for the First Order. Important things are said 3 times. Chapter 71 Arrive at the Blue Moon Duchy, divide the troops. Ask for First Order, ask for Self-Order. Lionison's words made everyone around him widen their eyes. Even Albert looked at Lionison with some shock. Loyalty to the duchy, isn't this saying that Alan can become the Grand Duke's vassal? You must know that the nobles enfeoffed by the Earl and the nobles enfeoffed by the Grand Duke are completely different things. This is the highest glory in the entire duchy. It means that Alan will leave the Thistle Flower family and start his own business. Alan was also stunned when he heard this, and then he smiled. Of course I am willing. Becoming a noble in theft by Duke Ryan is a good choice for Alan. He can't be the Baron of Rose Town for the rest of his life. Moreover, his system mission is to be promoted to the title. And the Earl promoting him and the Grand Duke promoting him are completely two concepts. Alan feels that this will definitely affect the system's evaluation and reward factors. Why not do it if you can get a higher position and more rewards? Ha ha ha, good. Lionison laughed loudly and patted Alan on the shoulder. I am very optimistic about you. Albert was a little dazed when he saw this. It seems that his son is a little bit amazing. As for Viscount Aaron on a ship in the distance, at this moment he was looking at Alan's ship with a sad face. He also saw the scene where Alan became a level 7 knight and killed Earl Angry Bear with one sword. Aaron was extremely shocked by this. He couldn't believe that Alan had reached level 7. This made Aaron, who had just regained some confidence, once again closed himself off. He once suspected that he was dreaming, but after slapping himself countless times, he finally accepted this fact. Aaron knew that from now on, he must accept the cruel fact that Alan was stronger and more excellent than him. After a brief moment of relaxation, Albert once again ordered everyone to perk up, as they would soon be setting foot on the territory of the Blue Moon Duchy and engaging them in battle on land. At the same time, Lionson and Albert also received some messages delivered by flying eagles. These were likely news from other large armies. Thorn Flower territory was just one of the armies dispatched by the Lane Duchy. In fact, the Lane Duchy had sent out 3 armies, each roughly the same size as the Thorn Flower territory contingent. This meant that the Lane Duchy had invested around 100,000 soldiers in this national war. Don't underestimate this number, it was already an extremely large figure. After all, the Lane Duchy also had contact with other continental nations, and they couldn't mobilize all their troops at once. However, being able to dispatch 100,000 soldiers already demonstrated the Duke of Lane's level of importance attached to this war. The other 2 large armies encountered fierce resistance from the enemy, and although they eventually won, they also suffered heavy losses. Lionson's expression was slightly grave after reading the letter. He glanced at Alan again. The situation of the other 2 armies only served to highlight the enormous contribution Alan had made in the naval war. It seems that we will be the main force next, Lionson said to Albert. At that moment, Albert and Prince Lionson were in the cabin, discussing the upcoming landing operation. Land warfare was a strength of the Lane Duchy's army, so there was naturally no need to worry about combat effectiveness. The situation during the naval war, where they were suppressed by the enemy, would never happen again. While the 2 were discussing their next course of action in the room, on the deck, Alan sat on the deck without much regard for his image, leaning against his silver moon wolf, his eyes closed, appearing as if he were asleep. In fact, he wasn't, he was currently studying the merit shop. Although he had looked at the shop once before, he had only glanced at it briefly, as he didn't have many merits at the time. But now, things were different. Alan's merits had reached 93,758 points, almost approaching the 100,000 mark, which gave Alan the confidence to take another good look at this merit shop. Beginner Warrior Training Acceleration Card, 500 merits. Intermediate Warrior Training Acceleration Card, 4,500 merits. Advanced Warrior Training Acceleration Card, 40,000 merits. Alan carefully examined them. The beginner acceleration card could only train 50 people, but the intermediate acceleration card could train 500 people, and the advanced one could train 5,000 people at once. Clearly, the intermediate acceleration card trained 10 times as many people as the beginner acceleration card, but the price wasn't that much higher. Similarly, the advanced warrior training card was also like that. This showed that the system clearly offered discounts for purchasing higher level items. This made Alan's eyes light up. The knight training cards should also be like this. Alan looked at the knight training cards. Sure enough, the beginner knight training card required 5,000 merits, the intermediate only required 45,000, and the advanced required 400,000. Clearly, the higher the level of the item, the more cost-effective it was. Flowers. But Alan looked at his 90,000 plus merits. He was still too naive, thinking that 90,000 was a huge sum. Haha. Although Alan didn't purchase any items, it didn't stop him from planning what to buy in the future. Warrior and knight training cards were definitely needed, and so were spirits of nature. As for the others, if there were any merits left over by then, he wouldn't mind buying some experience points. Apart from these three, the others didn't necessarily have to be purchased from the shop. For example, for biological items, Alan could completely rely on collecting some fur and bones to unlock species and acquire them. As long as he could unlock the species, he could spend money to buy them. There was no need to waste merit points at all. As for gold coins and such, Alan was even more disdainful. He only needed to wait for a while. And after his liquor factory, perfume factory, and malt sugar factory expanded, gold coins would naturally flow in endlessly. As for the other miscellaneous things, he could completely buy them with gold coins. After roughly deciding on the direction of purchases, Alan slightly opened his eyes. At the same time, the sailors began to shout loudly. The Blue Moon Duchy is here. We can already see the Blue Moon Duchy. The sailors' voices made the resting warriors perk up. Albert and Prince Linson also walked out of the cabin. Everyone's eyes turned to a group of islands not far away. Of course, most people's eyes were focused on the largest island in the very center. Prepare to land and fight. Albert's expression was calm as he issued the order in a faint voice. Alan's lips curled into a smile upon hearing this. The final battle was about to begin. Soon, hundreds of ships from the Lane Duchy arrived near the Blue Moon Duchy, with a small portion scattering to the surrounding small islands, while the vast majority headed towards the central heartland of the Blue Moon Duchy. Alan's wolf cavalry and cavalry were almost the first to rush ashore. At this moment, the superiority of the cavalry was revealed. Alan, you and Elon, together with the people of Viscount Ironwood, Baron Whitebird, and Baron Red Bamboo, go to the right and conquer the fief of Earl Iron Ridge of the Blue Moon Duchy. As soon as they landed, Albert issued the task, dividing the army into 3 groups, advancing in a fan shape along the left, right, and center routes. Because Alan had broken through to become a level 7 knight, he was given the task of leading a troop independently. Several. Number 45 to 45. Ding, detecting that the host has temporary team command, the team has expanded to 3,000 people, temporarily activating the Warlord Aura. Warlord Aura. All warriors under the host, including those temporarily obeying the host's orders, have +5 to their stamina and +5 to their speed, gain the special effect of being fearless in the face of death, and gain the special effect of becoming braver in battle. Fearless in the face of death. The warriors under the host temporarily forget the fear of death and the pain of injury, perfectly unleashing 200% of their combat power until death. Becoming braver in battle. The warriors under the host gain the ability to recover their own stamina or injuries by obtaining a portion of the enemy's stamina with each attack. The system's prompt made Alan slightly stunned, and then he revealed a smile. It's simply a divine skill. Lord Alan, ahead is Iron Ridge City. This city is backed by mountains on 3 sides, making it easy to defend and difficult to attack. Moreover, its city walls are made of the iron ore unique to this area, making them much stronger than ordinary city walls. Alan rode on Silvermoon Wolf, with Aaron, Viscount Ironwood, Baron Whitebird, and Baron Red Bamboo by his side. The one speaking at the moment was Viscount Ironwood, who was in his prime. His family was famous for producing ironwood, so naturally he knew the hardness of iron ore. Although he was a Viscount at the moment, and his title was higher than Alan's, he still looked respectful and humble. This was not only because Alan's cultivation was high, but also because Alan's performance in the naval war had already earned everyone's respect. Moreover, Viscount Ironwood had also heard that His Royal Highness the First Prince had praised Alan greatly, and even directly asked Alan if he was willing to pledge allegiance to the Grand Duke. This meant that Alan would definitely have a meteoric rise from now on. The nobles enfeoffed by the Grand Duke were the same as earls, they were nobles of the duchy. This was a completely different level of significance. Alan listened to Viscount Ironwood's words with a calm expression. Iron ore is indeed known for its hardness, but it is only relatively hard, and it is far from being indestructible. His tone was calm and he didn't care about the dark city not far away, his expression was extremely indifferent. Along the way, he had already solved the fiefdoms of some barons and viscounts. These small nobles couldn't stop Alan's army at all. However, Alan's army had also been delayed for some time because of this. After all, they weren't just here to fight. Why fight? Wasn't it for resources, gold coins, and spirits of nature? Alan naturally took away all the good things wherever he went. This also delayed Alan's speed of advance, giving Iron Ridge City enough time to summon its citizens and close the city gates. However, Alan didn't care about this. He just gave his cavalry a look, and immediately, 50 wolf riders rushed out quickly. Lord, only 50 people. Viscount Ironwood was slightly stunned. According to his idea, they could enter the mountains to see if they could find a chance to enter from the mountains around Iron Ridge City. Of course, Alan could also take action. With his strength as a level 7 knight, destroying the city gate would be more than enough. However, considering that there was also a golden knight stationed on the other side, they did not approve of Alan taking action. Of course, Alan didn't think about doing it himself. A mere city gate made of iron ore, did they really think he couldn't open it? Viscount Ironwood, don't worry, wait for them to open the city gate, and then all of you will charge with me. Alan said calmly. Subscribe to Chinese novel audio wave. Viscount Ironwood, Baron White Bird, Baron Red Bamboo, and Aaron looked at each other. 50 cavalrymen, wanting to open the iron ore city wall. How easy is that? Boom. Before they could finish thinking, a violent explosion sounded. Alan nodded in satisfaction. Everyone pay attention, prepare to charge. Everyone then came back to their senses, only to see not far away, 50 wolf riders quickly wandering in front of the city gate. The arrows and spears of the city's defenders could not hit them. Even Silvermoon Wolf would occasionally release wind-type magic, Wind Blade. Almost none of the defending warriors could avoid this strange and invisible magic. From time to time, warriors would fall from the city wall. Of course, this was just the performance of Silvermoon Wolf. The real focus was still the magic scrolls that the wolf riders took out from their hands. This was a strategic material that Alan had purchased from the Roland Chamber of Commerce at a huge cost. Magic scrolls were extremely expensive, and most importantly, this thing was scarce. Only a real big chamber of commerce could have enough stock. This was the benefit that Alan had gained after cooperating with Anna. According to the information that Alan had learned, the number of people in the entire Ryan Duchy who were qualified to purchase magic scrolls in large quantities did not exceed 10, and Alan was one of them. It was not an exaggeration to say that even Earl Albert was not qualified to purchase a large number of magic scrolls from the Roland Chamber of Commerce. They could only purchase a small amount regularly, spending a huge amount of time as the price to gather a batch of magic scrolls. Therefore, when the war reached this point, Albert did not let anyone use magic scrolls. Because that thing was too precious, once it was used, it would take several years, or even 10 years, to continue accumulating. Of course, this was the situation of others. As a person fully supported by Anna, Alan was qualified enough to directly purchase enough magic scrolls from the Roland Chamber of Commerce's warehouse. Even some precious potions. Magic scroll. Still an intermediate magic scroll. In an instant, Viscount Ironwood and the others widened their eyes. With the use of magic scrolls, the originally solid iron ore city wall quickly collapsed and disintegrated. Alan disregarded the shocked gazes of others and waved his hand. Everyone, charge. Rush into Iron Ridge City. Spare those who surrender, and show no mercy to those who resist. The moment the gates of Iron Ridge City collapsed, Alan issued the order. Simultaneously, he activated his warlord aura. Instantly, all the warriors felt as if their bodies were filled with power. Kill. Trample Iron Ridge City. Baron Taimu didn't waste any words. He drew his longsword and charged out on his warhorse. Soon, everyone followed him, rushing towards Iron Ridge City. Inside Iron Ridge City, a dense mass of troops also surged out, seemingly outnumbering Alan's forces considerably. HMPH, I thought Earl Thorne's flower had come himself. I didn't expect it to be just a few ants. A gold knight clad in golden armor soared into the sky, a hint of disdain in his expression. A bunch of ants daring to attack my Iron Ridge City. Alan's eyebrows twitched slightly upon hearing this, and he quickly ascended into the air as well. Ants? Are you talking about yourself? Alan gripped his knight's sword in his right hand, looking at the slightly astonished Iron Ridge Earl with a smile. A level 7 knight. A little brat is actually a level 7 knight. Ha ha ha, it seems I've encountered a genius from the Ryan Duchy. The Iron Ridge Earl, after a moment of stunned silence, immediately burst into wild laughter. Excellent, excellent. I love killing you ignorant geniuses the most. Chapter 73, Slaying the Iron Ridge Earl, Corn Spirit. S for initial order, S for subscriptions. Kill me. Alan smiled, a hint of coldness in his eyes. At this moment, the Iron Ridge Earl was just a huge source of merit points to him. The previous Angry Bear Earl provided him with 10,000 merit points. You can try. Alan chuckled, and in a flash, he was already engaged in a fierce battle with the Iron Ridge Earl. Courting death. The Iron Ridge Earl's expression was indifferent. Since it wasn't Albert, the level 8 knight, he had no reason to be afraid. But very quickly, this arrogant and conceited Iron Ridge Earl realized he was wrong. Terribly wrong. Judging by his aura, Alan was indeed a level 7 knight, but his explosive power, speed, and strength completely surpassed the level 7 threshold in every aspect. Even if someone said Alan was a level 8 knight at this moment, the Iron Ridge Earl wouldn't doubt it. Boom. Alan slashed down fiercely with his sword, directly cutting the Iron Ridge Earl, clad in golden knight armor, from the sky. Boom. The earth was stirred up by the Iron Ridge Earl's fall. PFF'd. The Iron Ridge Earl's face was extremely unsightly at this moment. His originally calm and composed expression was completely shattered by Alan's strength in just a few breaths. Impossible. How could you be a level 8 knight? The Iron Ridge Earl said in horror, spitting blood. Alan swayed and appeared in front of the Earl, who had already been beaten to the point of doubting his life. No, Iron Ridge Earl, I've always been just a level 7 knight. The Iron Ridge Earl looked terrified. He swung his sword, preparing for a desperate fight, but Alan shattered his knight's sword with a single strike. At the same time, Alan's longsword sliced across the level 7 knight's neck. Soon, blood sprayed, and the Iron Ridge Earl became the second gold knight to die at Alan's hands. Ding! Congratulations to the host for obtaining 10,000 merit points. Hearing the system's notification, a smile appeared on the corner of Alan's mouth. The Earl is dead. What? The Earl has been defeated. The scene of Alan slaying the Iron Ridge Earl immediately caused the morale of the Iron Ridge City troops, who were still fighting hard, to plummet. They were already starting to doubt their lives after being beaten by Alan's forces. Clearly, their own forces far outnumbered the enemy, but when they fought, they found that they were actually at a disadvantage. The madmen on the other side were simply devils. No matter how badly they were injured, these people acted as if nothing had happened and were able to stand up and continue fighting. In addition, the enemy's cavalry was too terrifying, especially those guys riding magical beasts. They were simply battlefield bulldozers. The magical beasts continuously released wind blade magic. Not to mention ordinary warriors, even the Night Lords would be cut to pieces by the wind blades if they weren't careful. With that group of magical beast cavalry present, there was no way to establish a defensive line on the battlefield. The enemy directly roamed the battlefield without restraint, and no one could stop them. The Earl has been defeated. It's over, Iron Ridge City is finished. No one can stop them. The Iron Ridge City warriors, who were already under immense pressure, saw that the Iron Ridge Earl was dead and saw the group of bloodthirsty enemies around them, and the warrior completely collapsed. He directly threw away the weapon in his hand and began to flee. Unfortunately, he was killed before he could take 2 steps. With the first, there was naturally a second and a third. The morale of the Iron Ridge City garrison had been shaken, and their fighting spirit had collapsed. Even if they had twice or even 3 times the strength, they could not reverse the decline of the war. Soon, all the Iron Ridge City troops began to collapse and scatter in all directions. Alan's troops began a frenzied massacre, and finally stopped slowly after the entire plain in front of Iron Ridge City was covered with corpses. Iron Ridge City was defeated, and Alan led his men into the entire Iron Ridge City. At this moment, there was no force of resistance in the city except for the civilians. Who would dare to resist? Outside the city was a battlefield littered with corpses. The tragedy of the war had already made the remaining people realize the beauty of being alive. Looking at the group of devils behind Alan, each of them was soaked in blood, as if they were blood men. Number 46 to 46. Under the intense stench of blood and killing intent, everyone was afraid to even move. Alan, riding the Silver Moon Wolf, slowly traversed the entire Iron Ridge City. The commoners of Iron Ridge City knelt one after another, welcoming their new city lord. Alan was very satisfied with this, and he slowly arrived outside the Iron Ridge Castle. Although the Blue Moon Duchy was a maritime duchy, the etiquette and face of the nobles were not lacking. The Iron Ridge Castle relied on a large mountain, was fully 5 stories high, and was built extremely luxuriously and imposingly. Unlike the Thorned Flower Castle, which had a noble and elegant air, this castle, perched halfway up the mountain, appeared slightly domineering and cold. It was entirely constructed of iron stone, giving it a very imposing appearance. Alan kicked open the castle gate, and the warriors behind him filed in, beginning to search the entire castle. Alan himself calmly walked towards the sofa in the hall and sat down. This wasn't the first time he had done something like this. The last time was when he robbed a viscount. Now, he was able to directly capture the territory of an earl. Alan felt a slight sense of pride in his heart. Soon, all the servants and female relatives in the entire castle were captured by Elon and his men, and tied up on the ground. The treasures in the castle were also carried out box by the warriors below. "Lord, we found 400,000 gold coins in the entire castle, as well as some expensive gems, emeralds, magic potions, and so on." Earl Ironwood's originally stern face now revealed a brilliant smile. "There's also a corn fairy, a wheat spirit of nature, a sweet potato spirit of nature, an orchid spirit of nature, an ironwood spirit of nature, and a pasture spirit of nature." Behind Earl Ironwood, several warriors appeared, holding several beautiful and cute spirits of nature. The most eye-catching of them was the corn fairy, who had yellow hair and a body several times larger than the other spirits of nature, about the size of Alan's palm. "A fairy. This is a fairy. So beautiful, look at her appearance, I can't get enough of it. God, how can there be such a beautiful creature? So pretty." The appearance of the spirits of nature immediately attracted everyone's attention. Alan also looked at the corn fairy, who was sizing him up, with a smile on his face. "Ada, Ada." The corn fairy looked at Alan with some vigilance and wariness. After all, this was not a spirit of nature produced by the system, and it was impossible for her to have a natural liking for him. Alan smiled slightly. "What a beautiful fellow, but you should also know that you are free. Your master has been killed by me. This place will soon become the territory of the Ryan Duchy, so, little one, you need to choose a new master." Alan reached out to grab the corn fairy, who was clearly more intelligent and agile than the spirits of nature. "Ada, Ada." She quickly dodged, and after confirming that she had regained her freedom, her first reaction was to leave and escape. Having worked for humans for a long time, she wanted to gain true freedom. But Alan would never allow this fairy to run away. The value of one fairy far exceeded that of 5, no, even 10, spirits of nature. Now that he had a fairy in hand, how could Alan let her go? His body flickered slightly, and at the speed of a 7th-level knight, he instantly grabbed the corn fairy who wanted to escape, and then forcibly signed a contract. Chapter 74, Dragon-type Magic Potion, sweeping through the minor nobles' first order, self-order. After signing a contract with the corn fairy, Alan possessed a fairy for the first time, and this was not given to him by the system, but obtained by himself. Ding! Congratulations, host, for obtaining a fairy, unlocking the achievement, Spirit of Nature Expert. Congratulations, host, for obtaining 10,000 experience points and obtaining a dragon-type magic potion recipe. Alan's mind was filled with system prompts. This made Alan a little surprised. 10,000 experience points were really nothing to him, but the dragon-type magic potion recipe seemed to be a good thing. You must know that dragons are undoubtedly the most precious species on this continent. Anything related to dragons is definitely a good thing. The dragon-type magic potion recipe mentioned by the system has the word, dragon, in it. This made Alan's mood a little expectant. Dragon-type magic potion, an ancient magic potion, with dragon blood as the main ingredient. After taking it, you can obtain a wisp of dragon power. Alan called up the information on the dragon-type magic potion, and his face immediately showed a hint of joy. Dragon power. It seems that it is indeed a good thing. As soon as Alan saw the 2 words, dragon, he knew that the value of this magic potion was enormous. Lord, what should we do now? Earl Ironwood watched Alan subdue the fairy, and a trace of envy flashed in his eyes, but according to the rules, the spoils should be distributed according to military merit. Alan's contribution was enormous. He had killed Earl Iron Ridge, and his cavalry had charged into battle, making a huge contribution to the victory of the war, especially the Wolf Cavalry. Breaking through the city gate and slaughtering the enemy troops, the Wolf Cavalry had all made great achievements. Alan had no problem taking the ferry directly. The rest was for them to distribute. As for handing it over to the duchy, there was no such rule. Whoever obtained the spoils, it belonged to them. What were they fighting bravely for in the war, putting their heads on their belts? Wasn't it for glory and wealth? Rest here for a day. Everyone is tired. The national war cannot be ended in a day or two. Besides, we are only the vanguard. I heard that marquises and other big figures will appear later. Alan did not order to continue forward. Now they were in the Blue Moon Duchy, and they needed to be steady and cautious. Of course, the most important thing was that Alan's troops were already a little tired. Although there was the effect of the warlord aura, it did not mean that Alan's warriors were tireless. Although they had won the previous battle, they were facing twice as many guards as they were. Even slaughtering 10,000 pigs would take some effort, let alone people. In addition, give everyone a gold coin. The gold coins will come from my share of the spoils. Remember, everyone, all warriors must receive a gold coin. Tell them that those who follow me, Alan, can receive a gold coin every day as long as the war does not end. Alan waved his hand and said, "Thank you for your generosity, Lord. I thank you on behalf of all the warriors." Earl Ironwood's face moved slightly when he heard this. 1 gold coin per person, which was about 3,000 gold coins a day, and 30,000 in 10 days. Alan actually spent such a huge sum of money without even blinking an eye. Well, okay, let people go down to rest, but don't relax your vigilance. Now we are fighting on the territory of another country, and we must be careful in everything, Alan instructed. Next was the stage of dividing the spoils of war. Besides a ferry, Alan obtained a total of 200,000 gold coins, as well as a large number of valuable items, such as gems, jade, and magic potions. After dividing the spoils, Alan and his party dispersed to rest. It wasn't until the next morning that Alan gathered all the lords again. "Everyone, we've rested enough, it's time to get moving," Alan said, standing in front of a map of the Blue Moon Principality found in Count Iron Ridge's room. "I've looked at the map of the Blue Moon Principality. We are currently in the far right. From here, towards the coast, there are only a few Viscount territories. From here to the royal capital of the Blue Moon Principality, we are separated by the territories of 2 earls and 1 marquis." Alan pointed to the map and said, "Today, we will first sweep away all the resisting forces of the Blue Moon Principality near Iron Ridge City. Tomorrow, we will begin our attack towards the royal capital of the Blue Moon Principality." After speaking, Alan turned to the others and asked, "Do you have anything to add?" Viscount Ironwood shook his head. "No, but Lord, do we not need to wait for subsequent support?" Alan smiled upon hearing this. Wait for subsequent support. If we wait for them to arrive, will there still be meat for us to eat? Hearing Alan's words, Viscount Ironwood and the others also revealed a trace of a smile. Indeed, if they didn't take advantage of the time before the subsequent troops arrived to make a fortune, once the Marquis and other big figures came, they would only be able to drink some soup. All right, if there's nothing to add, go down and prepare. Gather outside the city in half an hour and sweep the surrounding area clean first. Alan issued the order. "Yes, Lord." Viscount Ironwood and the other 2 immediately left respectfully. Only Elon and Alan remained in the room. Elon had now completely lost the treatment of the eldest son of an earl. He silently watched Alan issue orders, a hint of sigh in his expression. He had to admit that Alan was truly excellent, so excellent that he could only feel envy and jealousy. "Elon, why aren't you preparing?" Alan looked at Elon with some surprise. Elon then came back to his senses, smiled awkwardly, and turned to leave. Soon, Alan's cavalry, along with the remaining warriors, began to sweep around Iron Ridge City. The harvest was also good. After distributing the spoils, Alan obtained 50,000 to 60,000 gold coins and 2 nature spirits. In just 2 days, Alan acquired more than 200,000 gold coins, a fairy, and 2 nature spirits. In addition, there were countless valuable gems, magic plants, and magic potions. It could be said that in these 2 days, he had earned almost all the money he hadn't earned in the previous 16 years. This was war. Alan's cavalry had become the most feared nightmare of the Blue Moon Principality's army in the vicinity. Lord, so far, we have almost swept away the surrounding small nobles. The next target should continue to advance. Viscount Ironwood was recently riding high, not because of anything else but because he won every battle with Alan. Moreover, over the past 2 days, everyone had discovered that when they fought alongside Alan, they seemed to have been injected with chicken blood, able to unleash powerful strength they had never been able to unleash before. This shocked them, and at the same time, they became even more awe-inspired by Alan. Because during this time, Marco and Alan's cavalry often told them that Alan was a person favored and watched by the god of war. They didn't believe it before, but now they had to believe it. Because they felt that mysterious and unpredictable power that seemed to come from the gods. Only those watched by the god of war could have such powerful power, able to make them stronger and led them to victory in every battle. Relying on Alan's wolf cavalry, and their extraordinary strength, they were indeed a symbol of invincibility here. Well, everyone will rest in Iron Ridge City for one night and set off early tomorrow morning to attack Sea Anemone territory. Alan rode on the Silver Moon Wolf, his eyes looking in the direction of Sea Anemone territory. Chapter 75 Attacking Sea Anemone City, 2 Earls. First subscription, self-subscription. Elon, are you sure you won't advance with me? Early the next morning, Alan's troops had already assembled, and after a night's rest, they were once again full of energy. At this moment, outside Iron Ridge City, Alan looked at his good-for-nothing brother with some surprise. Just now, he had actually taken the initiative to stay behind and wait for subsequent support. Elon's words surprised Alan. You must know that now is a national war, a super large war that may not happen once in several years, and it is also an excellent opportunity to improve one's peerage. Following Alan, you could win every battle and easily obtain a large amount of military merit. Separating from Alan and staying behind to guard Iron Ridge City, although it was also meritorious, was completely different from conquering others and fighting on the battlefield. Alan, I've already decided. I also have the bloodline of the Thorn's Flower. Although I'm not as good as you, I will never hide behind you and enjoy the credit. Elon said with a firm gaze, your goal is Earl Sea Anemone, and I also have my own goals. My goal is some small nobles. I want to earn glory myself. Elon's tone was somewhat proud. This came from the pride of his bloodline. He was of the Thorn's Flower bloodline, and his pride did not allow him to hide behind his younger brother. There were some small nobles on the border of Sea Anemone territory, and this was Elon's goal. Alan didn't care about these goals, so they were just right for Elon. Moreover, these small nobles were not particularly far from Iron Ridge City, and Elon could completely guard the city while conquering these small nobles. Since you've decided, then I have nothing to say. Alan smiled. This was the first time he felt that this guy Elon had such backbone. Marco. Alan called out. Lord. Marco responded. Give Viscount Elon some healing potions. Alan said lightly, Elon, the healing potions were purchased from the Roland Merchant Guild. They are quite effective, so take some with you. Elon did not refuse the potions. Soon, Alan led the remaining 2,500 people away. Elon led 500 people to stay behind and guard Iron Ridge City. Within Sea Anemone territory, Alan's cavalry swept across, engulfing all the small nobles on the path of advance. The superiority of the cavalry became more and more obvious. Before others could react, the cavalry's longsword had already cut off their necks. In just half a day, all the nobles in the entire Sea Anemone territory were terrified. Number 47 to 47. They had long known the enemy was coming, but they didn't expect them to be so ferocious. Earl Anemone. They are about to reach Anemone City. A gorgeously dressed viscount was in Anemone Fortress, speaking with a look of terror to Earl Anemone, who possessed a powerful aura. My lord, could it be the main force of the Lionheart Duchy? This viscount was already terrified. He felt that the enemy's strength was too formidable, even more terrifying than Earl Anemone's knights. Main force. Humph, Lawrence, look at your cowardly appearance. I really don't know how someone like you could become a noble. Truly shameful. Earl Anemone's eyes showed a hint of disgust. He hated people who lacked any noble qualities. In his opinion, nobles were called nobles because they possessed great courage and strength, and could maintain a calm, composed, and elegant demeanor under any circumstances. For example, right now, Earl Anemone was drinking wine and enjoying delicious food. My lord, it's not that I'm timid, it's that the enemy is too strong. I heard that Earl Ironridge was killed by them a few days ago. Lawrence knelt on the ground, trembling with fear. Earl Anemone's expression changed slightly, but he quickly regained his elegant and noble posture. Just the weakest Earl Ironridge. Do you think I'm the same as him? Humph, fool. Earl Anemone said calmly, do you think I'm really just waiting for the enemy to attack? The elegant man took out a handkerchief to wipe the corner of his mouth, then slowly stood up. Bring me my knight armor, my guests have arrived. Earl Anemone revealed a slight smile. At the same time, Alan's troops had already appeared near Anemone City. My lord, that CFBH is Anemone City. Viscount Ironwood said with a look of eagerness for battle. Alan looked up at the city in the distance, a hint of anticipation flashing in his eyes. He was very curious about what Earl Anemone, who had been quiet all along, was planning. Order the attack. No matter what schemes and tricks the enemy has, there is only one thing we need to do. Flatten them, crush them. Alan waved his right hand, and immediately the cavalry around him charged out first, followed closely by the other infantry. Anemone City was not as sturdy as Iron Ridge City. With the wolf cavalry, Alan didn't need magic scrolls to attack. He only needed a few rounds of magic attacks from the wolf cavalry to open the gates of Anemone City. This was the power of magic beast cavalry. Unless the city's building materials were magical materials, completely immune to destruction by magic attacks, only then could the city ignore attacks from magical creatures. But using such expensive magical materials to build a city, Alan felt that only a tycoon or a madman could do such a thing. But before Alan's wolf cavalry could act, the gates of Anemone City opened on their own. A man riding a warhorse and wearing golden knight armor led a dense army out of the city. Humph, Lawrence, have you seen clearly? Those are the guys you were so afraid of that you were trembling. Humph, the main force. Just a ragtag army of 1,000 or 2,000 people. Earl Anemone said with a contemptuous expression, you think you can do whatever you want just because you have cavalry composed of a few magical beasts. Earl Anemone's longsword slightly erupted with sword energy, and immediately a cloud of dust suddenly rose from the entire ground. Dense sword marks appeared on the originally flat ground. His sword energy quickly swept across the earth, and was about to touch Alan's wolf cavalry. Alan also burst out with a powerful sword energy, confronting Earl Anemone's sword energy head-on. Alan's expression was calm, even a little amused. Why did every earl think they could easily deal with him? Oh, a golden knight, but without golden knight armor. You are not an earl, but you possess the fighting power of an earl. It seems you are still very young. To throw yourself into the battlefield at such a young age, I'm afraid the beauty of life will only briefly stay with you, and will soon depart. Earl Anemone said elegantly, but a hint of killing intent slowly appeared in his eyes. Being able to kill Iron Ridge, I naturally won't underestimate you, so I have prepared a great gift for you, I wonder if you will like it. As soon as he finished speaking, several thousand soldiers suddenly appeared from behind Alan's troops, and there were even many cavalry. The leader was actually another man wearing golden knight armor. Alan frowned slightly. 2 earls. Chapter 76. Level up Lord Aura, kill 2 earls first order, self-subscription. Ha ha ha, that's right, did you think we were just waiting for you to attack? Earl Anemone's mouth revealed a faint hint of disdain. Child, you are still too naive, do you think war is child's play? Anemone, stop talking nonsense, after killing him, we still have to go to Windbell. I heard they encountered the main force there, the vanguard of the Lionheart Duchy is all over there. The Golden Knight who appeared behind Alan and the others said coldly and quickly. Alan raised his eyebrows slightly. Earl Swift Swallow. It seems you still understand a little. That's right, I am Earl Swift Swallow of Swift Swallow territory. Today, in order to deal with you, I even made a special trip. You should be content. Earl Swift Swallow revealed a hint of killing intent. Alan narrowed his eyes slightly. 2 earls, that is, 2 level 7 knights. He didn't have the slightest fear, even though the combined forces of Earl Swift Swallow and Earl Anemone had reached an astonishing number of 13 or 14,000, Alan still didn't have the slightest panic. Indeed, Alan was surprised when Earl Swift Swallow appeared just now. But it was only surprise. Upgrade Lord Aura, Alan said silently in his heart. Ding, do you want to spend 100,000 merit points to upgrade the Lord Aura? Alan's mouth twitched. Damn, is the system taking advantage of the situation? Upgrade. Ding. Congratulations to the host, the Lord Aura has been successfully upgraded. Congratulations to the host for permanently obtaining the title of Warlord. Lord Aura Intermediate. All warriors under the host, including magic beasts and warhorses, receive an aura bonus, stamina plus 20, speed plus 20, strength plus 20. Note: the average stamina, speed, and strength of ordinary warriors is 5, and all warriors gain the effects of Fearless, Bloodbath, and Mountain-like military might. Fearless. Your warriors will not fear death and pain, and will unleash 10 times their own combat power. Bloodied Battle. Each time your warrior attacks an enemy, they can absorb the enemy's strength, stamina, and even life force to replenish their own strength, stamina, and heal their wounds. Note: this effect has been enhanced twofold. Military might. Like a mountain, your warriors will have high morale. Their spirit, energy, and essence will merge into one, forming a powerful aura of suppression that can cause enemies with weak willpower to instantly lose their ability to resist. Enemies with strong willpower will also experience fear, dread, and disorientation. A series of notifications rang out, and Alan's lips curled into a faint smile, satisfied. I will not be satisfied. Even if I kill you all, I will not be content. Alan swung the knight's sword in his hand, and a series of sharp sword energies burst out, instantly sending Earl Anemone flying with a single strike. Impossible. Earl Anemone's expression immediately changed. He used his knight's sword to block the dangerous blow just now, but he did not feel happy at all. Just now, he only felt an extremely terrifying power. And his original warhorse had already turned into minced meat. One can imagine how terrifying Alan's sword strike was just now. What powerful strength. Earl Anemone's hands trembled slightly. Flying Swallow, be careful, this guy is not right. Earl Anemone immediately reminded Earl Flying Swallow. HMPH, do you even need to tell me? When Earl Flying Swallow saw Earl Anemone being sent flying by Alan's sword, he knew that the opponent was more troublesome than he had imagined. Attack together. Everyone, listen up. Slaughter all of these scraps from the Lionheart Duchy. Earl Anemone shouted loudly before charging towards Alan. Alan didn't waste any words. He directly activated his Lord's aura and then uttered a faint sentence, charge. In an instant, Viscount Ironwood felt a surge of power suddenly welling up within his body. Ah, this is the blessing of the god of war. Warriors, kill. Slaughter the scraps from the Blue Moon Duchy. Although Viscount Ironwood and his men numbered less than 3,000, their spirit, energy, and essence were unprecedentedly powerful. Waves of battle intent merged into one. In an instant, this team exuded an aura that made the Blue Moon Duchy's warriors tremble with fear. Military might. Like a mountain. Kill. Viscount Ironwood and his group directly charged forward, hacking down the enemies who were suppressed by the military might. Like a mountain effect. Blood, madness, slaughter. Everyone under Alan's command had bloodshot eyes, like devils from hell, making everyone's hearts turn cold. Soon, the war broke out, and everyone charged into the fray. Alan and the 2 earls had also soared into the sky, constantly exchanging blows in the air. Damn it, his battle chi is very strong. Earl Flying Swallow's expression turned ugly. He didn't expect that he and Earl Anemone wouldn't be able to quickly kill Alan even when working together. On the contrary, Alan had taken the initiative from the beginning, and he was suppressing the 2 of them alone. This made Earl Anemone and the other wonder if they were doubting their existence. Please give fresh flowers. Damn it, we are both level 7 knights, how are you so excellent? What the 2 of them didn't know was that Alan was not only a level 7 knight but also a dragon knight. The purity and quantity of battle chi in his body far exceeded that of his peers. Is this all you've got? Alan swung his sword, with elegance, ruthlessness, and trickery. The blade instantly cut into Earl Anemone's right hand, severing the Earl's right arm. The right arm holding the knight's sword fell down, and Earl Anemone let out a miserable wail. "It seems I overestimated you." Alan swung his sword again, directly beheading Earl Anemone, while simultaneously approaching Earl Flying Swallow. Earl Flying Swallow was not in a good mood at this moment. He even regretted listening to Earl Anemone's nonsense, actually thinking that this little guy was extremely easy to deal with. 0 inches, damn it, how is he so strong? Earl Flying Swallow retreated quickly. He was famous for his agility and believed that his movements were extremely fast. He no longer had any fighting spirit. The moment Earl Anemone fell, he knew that if he didn't leave now, he wouldn't be able to escape. He fled quickly, even abandoning his own warriors. Want to run? Alan fully unleashed the battle chi in his body, instantly surpassing Earl Flying Swallow and appearing in front of him. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audio Wave. Die, you bastard. How could Alan let go of Earl Flying Swallow's 10,000 merit points? I spent 100,000 merit points to upgrade the Halo skill, and you still want to run. Alan slashed down with his sword, and the sword energy soared into the sky. Earl Flying Swallow wanted to resist, but he found that his body had already begun to tremble uncontrollably. Poochie. The sword energy quickly cut through Earl Flying Swallow's entire body, cutting him into small pieces of minced meat. HMPH, I wasn't going to look for trouble with you, yet you dared to look for trouble with me. A hint of disdain flashed in Alan's eyes, and at the same time, he revealed a smile. Perfect, I can solve both of them at once. After eating Anemone City, I can directly continue to eat Flying Swallow City. Alan thought silently in his heart as he charged towards the battlefield on the ground. At this moment, the entire ground was covered in corpses, as terrifying as hell. P.S. Chapter 6, please give fresh flowers, and all other data. I got up to write. Currently, the first chapter subscription is 200 people, and I feel a little cold in my heart. Only 200 people by 8 o'clock in the evening. Can I get 1,000 people today? Chapter 77, Anemone City belongs to me, Alan. First subscription, self-subscription. Alan returned to the battlefield. At this moment, on the battlefield, Alan's troops were killing with bloodshot eyes. With the power of the Lord's aura and the blessing of various effects, these warriors who were howling straight really gave the Blue Moon Duchy's warriors a head-on blow. Less than 3,000 people actually roamed the entire battlefield. With the wolf cavalry as the spearhead, everyone followed behind and constantly charged and killed on the battlefield. No one could withstand the charge of the wolf cavalry. Any battle formation or defense line would instantly shatter under the charge of the wolf cavalry. Not afraid of death, fighting bloody battles, and the effect of military might like a mountain were even more like divine skills on the battlefield. However, Alan's men were ultimately fewer in number. No matter how much the 2,500 people charged and killed, they had only killed 1,000 or 2,000 opponents. Alan couldn't wait for his men to waste time and lives on this. Number 48 to 48. After all, although his men could fight 10 enemies each under the buff of his lord's halo, they were, in the end, made of flesh and blood. In just a short while, they had already lost hundreds of men. Alan quickly descended onto the battlefield. He whistled, and a silver moon wolf, covered in blood, immediately darted out from the crowd. Alan instantly sat on the back of the silver moon wolf. Everyone, charge with me. Alan unleashed a sword strike, its energy surging and domineering. On a battlefield without golden knights to stop him, Alan was practically a walking slaughter machine. Instantly, dozens of people were torn apart by the sword energy. Soon, Alan led the wolf cavalry, the regular cavalry, and over 1,000 warriors, and began to sweep across the battlefield. Demons. They are demons. No, don't kill me. Ah. My hand is broken. Save me, I don't want to die. On the battlefield, countless soldiers of the Blue Moon Duchy were torn to pieces by Alan's sword energy, their bodies incomplete. They wailed and screamed in agony. They struggled endlessly in the mountain of corpses and sea of blood. Alan slightly lowered his longsword. At this moment, his knight armor was already stained with a thick layer of blood. Just now, he alone had killed thousands of people. Now, the blood aura around him was dense, as if a god of slaughter had descended upon the world. And the warriors behind him were all covered in blood, their eyes bloodshot like demons from hell, making people feel terrified. After half an hour of slaughter, except for a small number of fleeing soldiers, the remaining 10,000 soldiers of the Blue Moon Duchy were all buried here. Roar. The silver moon wolf under Alan constantly exhaled hot air, its expression savage and ferocious, roaring angrily at the sea anemone city with its gates closed. At this moment, the war had ended. All the warriors of Sea Anemone City had died in battle, and Sea Anemone City no longer had any resistance. Soon, the gates of Sea Anemone City were opened. Alan led his men and horses out of the mountain of corpses and sea of blood, each step leaving a bloody footprint, making people's hair stand on end. Some warriors even had blood constantly dripping from their clothes. No one knew whether it was the enemy's blood or their own. Alan's team now only had about 2,300 people left. In such a fierce battle, even with the powerful buff effect of the Lord's halo, death was ultimately unavoidable. War is so cruel and intense. But it is also so fascinating. Besides slaughter, death, and fear, it also brings the glory of the victor and enormous wealth. On the road, no one dared to stop this terrifying army from hell. Yes, at this moment, all the civilians of the Blue Moon Duchy and Sea Anemone City regarded Alan and his men as demons from hell. Only demons could slaughter tens of thousands of people with 2,000 men, and only demons would walk out of the mountain of corpses and sea of blood, bathed in blood. Alan walked to the center of the entire city, where there was a square, and on the square stood a statue of Earl Sea Anemone. Alan rode the silver moon wolf slowly forward. He held the hilt in his right hand, and the longsword waved slightly. Instantly, the statue was directly shattered by the sword energy. Boom! The statue fell to the ground with a loud noise, and Alan sheathed his sword. He passed by the statue without looking back. From today onwards, this place belongs to me. I am the master here. Remember my name, Alan. Thorn flower. Marco, plant the thorn flower flag on the city wall. Yes, Lord. Marco immediately led a team of men and horses, carrying the thorn flower flag, and left. Looking at Alan and his warriors' fierce appearance, all the city residents immediately lowered their heads and dared not speak. They were afraid that if they said a word, they would be directly beheaded by this brutal noble lord. This lord was even able to chop down a statue. You yourselves clean up that statue, and also, you yourselves dispose of the corpses outside the city. I don't want to see those guys' corpses again after 2 days. Alan said loudly to the city residents as he walked, and the city residents could only nod tremblingly. Soon, Alan led his men slowly through the entire city and entered Sea Anemone Castle. After entering the castle, Alan did not immediately order people to search for treasure. He only ordered people to seal the city gates, pay attention to vigilance, and then let people rest in shifts to recover their strength. By the way, Alan himself also took a nap. Even though he was a golden knight, after killing thousands of people, he would still have a feeling of deep inner fatigue. It was already the next day when he woke up. After sleeping, Alan felt refreshed. Lord, breakfast is ready. Marco showed a smile immediately when he saw Alan come out of the room. Yes. Alan responded and began to sit directly at the wide dining table to have breakfast alone. Bread, milk, a small plate of fresh grilled meat, and some caviar. Around him were Viscount Ironwood and others, as well as Marco, and a little further away were some warriors wearing armor. And finally, there were the female servants kneeling on the ground, waiting for Alan to decide how to deal with them, and the gold coins and treasures that had already been looted. They looked tremblingly at the young noble who was eating elegantly at the table. They simply couldn't believe that the man who had stepped into the castle yesterday covered in blood, like a butcher, looked more elegant and handsome than any noble they had ever seen today. The servants found it hard to believe that this handsome young noble was the demon who had slaughtered more than 10,000 people outside the city yesterday. Well, not bad. I didn't expect the caviar from the Blue Moon Duchy to taste so good. Alan ate slowly and methodically. No one dared to disturb him while he was eating. Marco, what's going on with these things and people? Alan asked while eating. My lord, they are all your spoils of war, Marco replied in a low voice. Alan glanced at the frightened women and revealed a smile. Women have never been my spoils of war, especially those used by Count Anemone. Whoever is interested can take them away. Also, Marco, Baron Ironwood, barren white bird, barren red bamboo, I'll give you 1 day to eat up the surrounding small nobles. Tomorrow, I need to swallow Flying Swallow City in one go. P.S. Chapter 7, although it is on the shelves, but all kinds of data are still needed. Anyway, these data are free. Readers, please vote a little more. Chapter 78, easily occupying Flying Swallow City, 8 subscriptions, self-subscriptions. Alan's words brought a hint of excitement to the faces of Marco and the others. This is completely letting them reap the benefits. As you wish, my respected lord, Baron Ironwood bowed to Alan and said. Well, remember, there is only 1 day. If you don't eat cleanly, pass the news here to Elon. I estimate that the subsequent troops have already landed. We don't have much time left, Alan said indifferently. Immediately, Marco and the others also showed a sense of urgency. They quickly left with a small group of people. Alan did not join their ranks this time. He just took away the wealth all over the ground, which was almost 300,000 gold coins worth of things. Of course, there was also a palm-sized fairy locked in a small cage. She was looking at Alan angrily at the moment. This is an anemone fairy. The little guy is looking at him fiercely, but even so, Alan still thinks she is so beautiful that it makes people intoxicated. Without saying a word, he directly subdued her and transferred her main body from a small lake connected to the sea. 25 at this moment, he already has 2 fairies and 3 natural spirits. He harvested wealth worth hundreds of thousands of gold coins. At this moment, Alan's merit points are still rising. In addition to Alan himself taking action, his subordinates defeating or killing enemies can also allow him to obtain merit points. Not to mention Marco and the others, even the sea cavalry is still searching for the nobles of various small islands on the sea and constantly fighting. Alan's merit points are constantly flowing. Alan casually found a room and took out a map of the Blue Moon Principality. Now he has crossed out the 2 small plates on the far right of the Blue Moon Principality. These 2 places are Iron Ridge Territory and Anemone Territory. The next territory bordering Anemone Territory is Flying Swallow Territory. These are the 3 earldoms on the far right of the central island of the Blue Moon Principality, and there are also some viscountsies and baronies scattered around the 3 earldoms. This is not important to Alan. As long as he takes Flying Swallow Territory again, he will have already taken 3 earldoms. He looked at the entire map of the Blue Moon Principality. Apart from the 3 marquisate around the royal capital, there are only the 2 earldoms on the left and the 4 earldoms on the front. Alan also deliberately looked for the Wind Chime Earl territory, and found that it was only the 2nd earldom on the front. Before fighting that Flying Swallow Earl yesterday, Alan heard him say that Earl Albert and Prince Linison and his party seemed to be in the Wind Chime Earl territory. It seems that they should have encountered the army of the Blue Moon Principality and the obstruction of several earls. Alan raised his eyebrows slightly. Even his side could attract 2 earls to attack him together. Naturally, there should be such a situation in other directions. Logically speaking, I only have less than 3,000 men. What I need to do is just to occupy some territory as a stronghold and wait for subsequent reinforcements before starting to attack the earldoms. But I am too good, my strength is too strong. Before the reinforcements arrived, I had already eaten 2 earls alone, and even Flying Swallow territory is only a matter of time. Alan showed a smile. He can be sure that he will definitely become famous in this battle. A viscount is definitely going to be promoted, and even, Alan feels that he should be able to aspire to the title of Earl. A 16-year-old Earl, Earl the First. Alan felt a comfortable feeling in his heart. In addition to the real things, my merit points have also reached 200,000 in the past few days. If I hadn't spent 100,000 to upgrade the Lord's Halo before, I would already have 300,000 merit points. Alan sighed slightly, but he didn't feel sorry. After upgrading the Lord's Halo, his Warlord Halo changed from a temporary skill to a permanent skill, which is a huge benefit to him as a Lord. Didn't you see that his 2,500 people were able to fight against more than 10,000 people on the opposite side before? This is the great effect of the Halo. Alan was still very satisfied with this. Soon a day passed. In the early morning, Alan put on the washed knight's armor again, and then led his men and horses out of Anemone City again, heading towards the next target, Flying Swallow City. This time Alan did not leave anyone in Anemone City. After all, he didn't have enough manpower himself. He could only notify Elon that if there were reinforcements, they would divide their troops to occupy Anemone City. Flying Swallow territory is near Anemone territory. Alan's troops advanced at full speed and spent a day to enter Flying Swallow territory. This time Alan directly led people to the gate of Flying Swallow City. His face was calm with a little laziness. Number 49 to 49. Listen up, people inside. You are surrounded. Surrender your weapons immediately, Alan said while yawning. If he needed to put in a little effort for Anemone City, then there was absolutely no need for it with Swallow City. Even the Lord, Earl Swallow, is already dead. What experts could Swallow City possibly have? Even if there were experts, hearing that Earl Swallow had died and preparing to come to support would still take time. Are they people from the Lionheart Duchy? How is that possible? Didn't Earl Swallow take his men to support Earl Anemone? How could they be here? Inside the city, the warriors were a little dumbfounded, not understanding why people from the Lionheart Duchy were here. Outrageous boasting, brat. You think you can come to our Swallow City and clamor with only 1 or 2,000 men? The 6th level knight guarding the city revealed a hint of disdain on his face. In his view, this small unit was just a band of roaming soldiers. Alan smiled. It seemed that the family of Earl Swallow hadn't spread the news of Earl Swallow's death yet. Logically speaking, not long after Earl Swallow's death, the nature spirit he contracted with, the fairy, would dissolve the contract, no longer listen to human arrangements, and become hostile to humans. This change was extremely obvious. Alan believed that Earl Swallow had been dead for 2 days, and the people in the Earl's castle couldn't possibly not know what had happened. Alas, why won't they believe it? Alan shrugged helplessly, and with a wave of the knight's sword in his hand, the entire city gate was instantly cut into pieces. Alan raised his knight's sword high and shouted, "Charge!" Soon, he led the wolf cavalry into Swallow City, slaughtering the still confused Swallow City warriors. This battle was the fastest Alan had ever fought. Because there were no gold knights, Alan was unstoppable, and in just a few minutes, he wiped out everyone near the city gate. After that, he led his men to advance rapidly. Along the way, they encountered some scattered resistance, but in the end, it was just futile resistance. Apart from leaving a few corpses on the streets, it had no effect. Soon, the entire Swallow City was filled with corpses and bloodstains. Alan directly occupied Swallow City, which was also the 3rd Earl's territory he had occupied. At this moment, he stood on the highest level of Swallow Castle, looking in the direction of the Blue Moon Principality's capital. There was still a large Marquis territory away from there. Chapter 79, Reinforcements, the Shocked Mad Lion Marquis. Subscriptions, self-subscriptions. Alan's Thorn Flower banner completely replaced the Swallow banner, and the entire Swallow City already belonged to Alan. After taking Swallow City, Alan didn't continue to advance as before. Instead, he had his men rest and recuperate in Swallow City. Afterwards, he would take his men out to clear out the small nobles. As for why he didn't attack the Marquis territory, of course, it was because he didn't have enough strength. If he had tens of thousands of people at this time, he would dare to go to Mad Wave Marquis, one of the 3 major Marquis territories of the Blue Moon Principality. Alan had heard that Marquises were all top experts of level 8, or even level 9. And they definitely had many gold knights under their command. Alan's strength was indeed not enough. So he decided to wait for a wave of reinforcements. Only with enough troops would Alan dare to rush up and fight, even if it was a Grand Duke. Time passed like this for 2 days, and Alan and Viscount Ironwood were living extremely well in Swallow City. After all, these guys used to be small nobles, and their fiefs were some small towns and cities. Occasionally, they had the opportunity to go to Thornflower City, but they had to be cautious and not let themselves go too much. But now it was different. Damn it, they had conquered the territory themselves, and with Alan's extreme indulgence, each of them was as arrogant as an Earth Emperor, enjoying fine wine, delicacies, and beautiful women every day, and their lives were quite beautiful. Alan also occasionally went out to earn merit points, and then practiced every day. 2 days later, outside Swallow City, a large group of troops arrived, covered in dust. After arriving, they saw the Thorn Flower banner all over the city, and the middle-aged, burly man wearing golden knight armor and riding a lion magic beast was immediately a little dumbfounded. Is this the third city now? Could it be that Albert's main force is here? This gold knight of the Lionheart Duchy said with some suspicion, that shouldn't be. Aren't they outside Wind Chime City over there? Marquis, Albert and the others did encounter great resistance in Wind Chime City. It is said that 4 earl-level experts and 60,000 troops have gathered in Wind Chime City these days. Albert can only struggle to support them and has been repeatedly defeated. A man also wearing golden knight armor said respectfully to the tall and burly man leading the way. The Marquis, as he was called, had a slightly strange expression on his face. His own vanguard army was being beaten so badly that they were questioning their lives, but this small unit of his was like the god of war, completely sweeping away all enemies. It seemed that the other party had already taken Swallow City. Then do you know who is leading the right-wing vanguard? The Marquis asked curiously. It's Baron Alan, the second son of Earl Albert, who has always been known for his mediocre cultivation talent. Recently, however, there seems to have been a great change. It is said that during the naval battle, he led a team of sea cavalry and directly defeated the naval forces of the Blue Moon Principality. At the same time, he broke through to the 7th level at sea and became the youngest gold knight in our principality. The man next to the Marquis said quickly, and a hint of doubt flashed in his eyes at the same time. Obviously, he also had some doubts about the authenticity of the information, but this information was personally written by His Royal Highness Lynson, so there could be no problem. Then the problem was the guy named Alan. The youngest. The Marquis stroked his beard, and the aura on his body fluctuated obscurely. How old is this kid? 16 years old. What? 16 years old? The Marquis of the Lionheart Duchy widened his eyes. You must know that even when he saw the thorn flower flag full of Swallow City before, he was only a little surprised, but he still maintained the demeanor of a noble. But now, hearing that Alan had advanced to the 7th level at the age of 16, the Marquis's aura couldn't be suppressed on the spot, and the terrifying fighting spirit fluctuations were released instantly, causing several earls wearing golden knight armor around him to look terrified. Lord! The surrounding people all showed uncomfortable expressions, and some warriors even turned pale and swayed unsteadily. The aura of this Marquis was too powerful, so powerful that even the earls who were also gold knights couldn't withstand it. It was hard to imagine his strength. Cough, cough. The Marquis obviously realized his gaffe, coughed lightly twice, and then quickly restrained his aura. This prevented his army from collapsing before even seeing the enemy. At the moment when this Marquis released his aura, Alan, who was in Fayen Fort, stood up immediately. He immediately soared into the air and flew out of the city. Marco and the others also immediately mobilized their troops and became vigilant. Alan quickly flew out of Fayen City and saw a dense mass of troops. The army held high the flags of the Lionheart Duchy, and also a flag with a lion pattern. Alan's eyes flashed with relief. It was good that they weren't enemies. Are you Alan? Before Alan could speak, a tall and burly man with a full beard, who seemed to be the leader on the opposite side, shouted loudly at Alan. This man's voice was rough, with a hint of domineering and some strange tone. Alan nodded slightly. I am. Are you the follow-up troops? Is it Marquis Mad Lion? Alan looked at the bearded man and asked curiously. As a nobleman, he had memorized all the family crests of the earls and marquises in the duchy since he was a child. When he saw the lion pattern, Alan knew that the leader of this team was Marquis Mad Lion, one of the 5 great marquises of the Lionheart Duchy. It is said that this man is the most hot-tempered marquis in the entire duchy, and his strength is also quite formidable. It is said that he is one of the top experts among the 5 great marquises. It's me. Little guy, come here and let me see. Damn it, how can you be so powerful? A 7th level knight at 16. Marquis Mad Lion's big eyes were full of curiosity and shock. There was also some love and appreciation for a genius. Alan was stunned, but he still walked over. Marquis, shouldn't we go into the city to rest first? I think the soldiers are very tired. I have already prepared a lot of food to wait for your arrival. Alan's words made Marquis Mad Lion nod slightly. Not bad, Garrick, inform everyone to enter the city to rest. After speaking, Marquis Mad Lion turned his gaze to Alan again. Little guy, not bad, not only is your cultivation talent amazing, but you are also good at leading troops. Originally, I thought I would have to lead people to destroy 2 earls before I could attack that old bastard, Newtow, but it seems that I don't need to bother so much now." Marquis Mad Lion laughed and patted Alan on the shoulder. "You're the most outstanding young man I have ever seen. I have high hopes for you. When we destroy the Blue Moon Duchy this time, I will tell the Duke about your merits. By then, not to mention a Viscount, even making you an Earl will not be a problem, right? P.S. It's the 9th chapter, now the subscription, well, let's just say it's miserable. I hope it can rise a bit in the evening." Chapter 80, adding 5,000 warriors. 0 for the First Order, Self-Order. Alan's expression was calm. He didn't seem too proud because of Marquis Mad Lion's words, which made Marquis Mad Lion feel even more fond of Alan. Not arrogant or impetuous, this little guy is not bad. Soon, the army entered the city, and Alan ordered people to prepare enough food, hot water, and rooms for the soldiers to rest. This time, Marquis Mad Lion brought a full 50,000 people. It can be said that he drew half of the troops from his territory at once. He wasn't Albert. His territory was close to the royal capital and had the responsibility of protecting the royal capital. He didn't dare to draw out all his troops. In case other duchies on the continent took advantage of the conflict between the Lionheart Duchy and the Blue Moon Duchy to make trouble. Alan carefully observed that among these 50,000 people, there were 5,000 cavalry, and the combat power of the knight level should be more than 500 people, and there were as many as 5 gold knights, including Marquis Mad Lion, a 9th level expert. A very strong lineup, Alan thought in his heart. While he was shocked by the strength of Marquis Mad Lion was also shocked by Alan's perversion. "What? Your troops only have 2,000 people?" Marquis Mad Lion was stunned. Not only was he stunned, but the earls around him were also stunned. "You said before that your 2,000 people slaughtered 13 to 14,000 people in Seaweed City, and at the same time killed 2 Earl-level combatants in one battle." Marquis Mad Lion found it hard to accept Alan's heaven-defying record. "Marquis, I wouldn't dare to lie. I believe you should have passed by Seaweed City, right? You should also be able to see that the soil on the entire plain in front of Seaweed City is purplish red. That was dyed red by the blood of more than 10,000 people. If you don't believe me, you can send someone to Seaweed City to inquire." Alan's indifference made the several earls in the castle and Marquis Mad Lion silent for a while. In the end, Marquis Mad Lion could only accept this fact. "It's unbelievable. Are you the son of the god of war?" Marquis Mad Lion inadvertently put a green hat on Earl Albert's head. Alan smiled slightly and didn't speak. Soon, a rich meal and delicious wine were brought up. Marquis Mad Lion and several earls immediately began to eat and drink heartily. They hadn't eaten such delicious food for several days because they had been on the road these days. Soon, everyone was full, and after chatting for a few words, they went back to their rooms to rest. The next day, Alan was called over by Marquis Mad Lion. When he arrived, several earls were already waiting for him in the conference room. "Everyone is here. The purpose of gathering you this time is very clear, which is to prepare to severely punish that old bastard, Marquis Newtow, CFBH. Marquis Mad Lion said with a beaming expression, looking like he was very happy. "I roughly looked at the territory of that old thing, Newtow. As one of the 3 great marquises of the Blue Moon Duchy, this old thing's territory is not small, catching up with 2/3 of my territory. He has 3 earls under his command, and I estimate that his troops are around 30,000, which does not pose a threat to us. So I want to send troops immediately, first kill this old thing, and then directly attack the royal capital." Marquis Mad Lion said with an expectant expression. Number 50 to 50. Lord, I think we can first assist Earl Albert's side, or wait a little longer," a count said with a somewhat wry smile. This Marquis Crazy Lion was good in every way, except his temper was too irritable. He would definitely act before uttering a word. Now that there was an opportunity, he was thinking of directly leading the entire army to attack. Alan was also a little speechless. He also felt that the best opportunity was to wait until the armies from all 3 directions had reached the Marquise's territory, so that no single army would face the problem of being jointly attacked by 2 or more marquises at the same time. Alan had just experienced such a situation once. Of course, he was not afraid of facing 2 level 7 knights, but if he had to face 2 level 9 big shots like Marquis Crazy Lion, Alan felt that he didn't need to take the risk. Garrick, why do you always come out to oppose me? Do you want me to beat you up? Marquis Crazy Lion glared, and his whole person looked much more dangerous. Alan's mouth twitched. Having lived for so long, it was the first time he had seen someone threaten his subordinate because the other person had made an excellent suggestion. Lord Marquis, I think that if the 3-line battles can be carried out simultaneously, then our risk will be much smaller, and we will not encounter a situation where 2 or even 3 Marquis-level powerhouses join forces to deal with us, Alan stood up and said. Marquis Crazy Lion raised his eyebrows slightly, and a trace of displeasure flashed in his eyes as he looked at Alan. Little guy, are you also a coward? This is not cowardice, but strategy. Alan's expression was neither humble nor arrogant. Of course, if you must go, I hope you can give me some manpower. You also know that my manpower is insufficient. HMPH. Manpower will of course be given to you, but you don't have to worry. I'm not as stupid as you think. Marquis Crazy Lion muttered. Now that I have arrived myself, it means that the old guy Crimson Flame has also arrived outside Wind Bell City and joined up with Albert and the others. With the help of that old guy Crimson Flame, a few counts are nothing more than ants that can be slapped to death. I reckon they should be approaching the Marquis's territory now. Don't worry, I haven't been fighting battles for so many years for nothing. Marquis Crazy Lion curled his lips, then looked at Alan and said, Little guy, how many people do you need? The more the better. Alan was also not polite. With the Lord's halo, the more people he had, the stronger his combat power would be. Hey, you really aren't polite. A hint of a smile flashed in Marquis Crazy Lion's eyes. I only have 50,000 people in my hands, I'll give you 5,000. Alan's expression froze. He had originally thought that Marquis Crazy Lion would give him at most 1 or 2,000 men. After all, he was not a direct descendant of Marquis Crazy Lion, and the fact that the other party was willing to give him manpower was already giving him face. He didn't expect that Marquis Crazy Lion would actually give him 5,000 men. This made Alan's expression filled with joy. Thank you, Lord Marquis. He quickly thanked him. This was a heartfelt thanks. He could feel that this seemingly rough Marquis seemed to be taking care of him. In any case, Marquis Crazy Lion had done him a great favor this time. You must know that according to the system's rules, as long as they were his subordinates, even temporary manpower, he could gain merit points when defeating or killing enemies. In other words, the more people Alan had under his command, the more merit points he would get. Marquis Crazy Lion's help was enough to double his harvest. Thank you for what? Instead of saying these nonsense words, why not let me open my eyes? I want to see how powerful the people you lead are. Able to defeat 15,000 with 2,000. Marquis Crazy Lion patted Alan on the shoulder. You are a talent, the duchy needs little guys like you. This national war is an opportunity, seize it well. P.S. Chapter 10, this should be the last chapter today. The subscription is dismal, very dismal, so I think there should be no more opportunities for additional updates. That's it, continue to update tomorrow. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audio Wave to stay updated with our latest stories. And never miss out on a great listen.